Not sitting down. We can start late, we just can't start early, right?
Yes, sir.
Good evening. I'd like to call the Tuesday, July 17th, 2018 City of Oldsmar City Council meeting to order. If you'll please rise for our invocation and our pledge, it will be led by our city attorney, Mr. Tom Trask.
Heavenly Father, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We pray that our work this evening will find favor in your sight. This we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and once again, welcome. A slight change to tonight's agenda that will actually happen moving forward. The items 7, 8, 9, and 10 we're going to move to after the mayor's minute. That will from now on be called awards and recognitions. That way we can do that at the beginning of the meeting for those that have other places to be than this exciting city council meeting. So having said that, our first item is the Citizens Open Forum. Anybody can address the city council on anything. We have no public hearings, so you can address anything on tonight's agenda. Keep it to no more than 5 minutes and state your name and address clearly for the record. Gator?
I will.
Okay. You will what?
I will state my name and address clearly
For the record. Okay. You want to go ahead and do it now, or you want a band or something?
Judy wants to talk first.
Oh, Judy, okay. I'm sorry. I was saving the best for last.
You got the best at first.
Yeah, that's what I know. Yeah, but then you got to follow it up with Gator. By the way, we're glad you're here tonight. Mm-hmm. We do miss you guys. Yes. And I think we're about to get an earful.
Uh-huh.
Maybe 2 ears full.
I'm Judy Black, and I now live at 2155 Montclair Road in Clearwater. And the reason I wanted to speak to you tonight was about building an assisted living facility here in Oldsmar. I think somebody spoke about something like that last time, but Brookdale, the company, has purchased all of the assisted living, so they're the folks to go to build another one. And the property that you were hoping the Rays would put a facility on would be a perfect place to put an assisted living facility. So there's your plan. All you have to do is execute it now.
Just like that.
Yes, and I can even get you the contact information for Brookdale if you need it, and go from there.
I was talking, Eric and I were talking earlier, there are a few people that we can talk to and see. Obviously, it's a private venture that has to happen, but we certainly can talk to some people. I think one of the things would be, for Marie maybe, is to find out where, I'm sure there are certain zonings that but we can certainly identify if and where they are and see what we can do.
And if you could rezone it for a ballpark, could you not rezone it for an assisted living place that's not nearly as big as that.
Mayor, did you want a motion for that? You realize that we don't actually own.
We don't own,
that
yeah, we
property.
don't own that property, so.
Oh,
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to
okay.
be there.
Yeah, it
It
doesn't
could be
have-
somewhere else.
But we can look in to see where it could even work, so.
What property don't we own?
The raise.
The 125 acres Stella owns.
We
Don't
even get started,
get him
Jerry.
started, Judy.
won't bring that up again.
Okay, so I have said this numerous times. The boomers are coming. Well, guess what? They're here. And I'm on the leading edge. So there are a lot more behind me. And you need to address this senior issue anyway, at some way or somehow. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We can certainly have some dialogue with the people that make those decisions, that's for sure, so.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
And if there's somebody that I can talk to,
Yes, the people you're right now, you tell them to come to the city. We have land, and tell them to build a facility here. That's what you
Okay.
can do.
I will work on it.
You'll see them tomorrow.
They have been warned.
We miss Oldsmar.
We miss you
Oldsmar
here.
misses you.
Gator?
My name is Steve Gator Black. I live the same place she does,
You still have a house here.
2155 Montclair Road in Clearwater, and I'm a Largo guy. I was born and raised in Largo, and I don't like Clearwater for a lot of reasons. However, the place we're staying is nice.
Water all over the room.
I've,
Gator, do you know anybody else from Largo?
yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
that's how I got to know him. He's from Largo. I've got three things tonight. Number one, I was asked to come up with another poetry challenge by a council member, and I'm not going to tell you who she is, but whoops, I didn't mean to let that out. But I've got a list of names on this words here, and I would like for you to each get one and write a poem about it. And I'll hand this out in a minute. The second thing I want to do, I want to read a couple of poems. One of them was written by my grandson when he was in the 6th grade. He was 10 years old. He's now a freshman at the University of Florida. And it's called Dunn's River Falls. His name is Jackson Rowland. Cool blue water, dripping, flowing down the rocks, clear as air. Green palm trees, just outside the stones. Birds sing from smooth branches. Stone and gravel sinking into the deep holes covered in water. The water reflects sunlight as it goes through gaps in the trees, shining on nature's beauty. Now that was written by a 10-year-old. If a 10-year-old can write something like that, you guys can too.
Wait a minute, I did and you wouldn't read it.
Yes, you did. I did read it.
Yeah.
Eventually, when I found it, after you gave me a copy.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and this one is one that I just wrote recently. It's called When the Wind Blows. Wheat fields ripple like waves when the wind blows. Like lakes sparkle and shine when the wind blows. Clouds drift across the sky when the wind blows. Sand drifts into dunes when the wind blows. Bright colored kites float when the wind blows. Leaves flutter and shine when the wind blows. Life goes on, changes occur when the wind blows. When the wind blows. When the wind blows. With that, I would like to tender my resignation as a poet laureate. I really don't want to do that, but I helped write the rules and I got to stick by them. So consider that a resignation. We want to tell you that we have loved living in Oldsmar. We've been here 14 years, and we both consider this home. We will be back and forth as many times as we can. Unfortunately, neither one of us drive anymore, so we're kind of stuck there. But feel free to come over and visit the old folks' home, where we will be ensconced in a chair in the lobby, waiting for a bus to take us somewhere. But really, we've enjoyed it. We've made a lot of good friends here, and we're going to miss you guys, all of you. With that, I'm going to give you the word list and have at it.
Don't make me be the first one in.
You haven't written one yet.
I did too.
Well, I didn't ever, well, nobody's ever read it to us.
Did he really write one?
Website.
Is it?
Hey, I was the first one to get it done.
No, you weren't.
Here, have a Reese cup.
Oh, this is a tough one. You're welcome, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Gabby.
Thanks, Gabby.
Really good. Let's do this again.
Oh, there we go.
I better take a picture of it now before I lose it.
Okay, I changed my mind.
Nope, once you touch the paper, I thought the same thing.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to hear yours, Tom.
Filled with legalese.
Thank you, Peter.
Little Latin in the middle of it.
Peter, I'm gonna miss you guys. I'm gonna miss you guys.
I can't work to work.
This one says Thanksgiving and violence.
Aren't they all the same? They're not all the same?
No, it's just how Al reads them differently.
So for those that are viewing at home, here are the words we have to work in. Server, initiative, wonderful, stuffing, discussion, travel, sledgehammer, drama, closet, general, and positive.
Sounds like a council meeting. Sorry.
I figured by the time you got it done, it'd be Thanksgiving.
It's probably true.
Ouch.
Gator, tell the mayor his can only be two sentences, 2 lines. And that way he may write something.
I'll just hook them all together. Well, thank you, and we will miss you, and I wanted to make sure that you were settled in, and I'll definitely be over to see you and hang out and cause a ruckus, so thank you.
Really do that over there.
Yeah. Anybody else on this side of the room? Yep. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? My name is Tara Cadell. I live at 305 Fairfield, just 2 blocks from here. Some of you know me, some of you don't. The reason why I came tonight is because I'm having an issue with the neighbor that's moving in next door to me. She's building this big mansion, and a lot of things that have been headaches to me and all my neighbors around us since she's built the house. When I've called and talked to Steven or Greg or anything like that, they kind of give me the runaround of, oh, the city doesn't have this and the city doesn't have that. I'm trying to find out, you know, like if she breaks something on my property, or if there's supposedly a foot between my property line and her property line that we had surveyed, how is she allowed to use that foot of property as hers? And, you know, it's like nothing's being done. So I feel like that I've lived in this town 50 years and been a homeowner for 30. And then she comes in and thinks she can do whatever she wants and has caused nothing but issues with all the neighbors around her. And it just seems like I'm getting the big runaround whenever I call and try to talk to somebody about what can be done. You know, I've spoke to Steven on several occasions, and he's just telling me the city's not in charge of that, or it's not something the city takes care of. Or I spoke to Greg today, and he told me that with the city codes, you know, it wasn't a code or it wasn't an ordinance. I'm just trying to find out, you know, like with being a homeowner and living here as long as I've lived, isn't there something that somebody can kind of do to help fix the problem?
Mayor, can I say something to
Yeah,
that?
let me just ask a quick question just for clarification. Is this the same property that Mrs. Oliver came and spoke, and that it is? Okay, just,
304.
No, I don't think so. That was the property behind.
Yeah, no, it is. It's 304 Fairfield. I
yeah,
believe.
it's the same property that we were
Yeah,
talking
it's
about.
303
Where
Fairfield.
there
You
was a-
got the one on the corner that she's caused a lot of issues with. You got the one behind her that's been a problem. And then you've got me next to her, and when we had to pay all this money to get surveys done,
There was a discrepancy.
there was a
or something.
discrepancy of the lines. It says there's a foot of property between my house and her house.
And-
And supposedly, neither one of us could buy it. And then it was supposedly told to me that it could be bought for $1,000. And then by that time, I had already put a new fence in so that I could have my yard fenced in for my animals. And then she didn't want to buy it, but yet everything she's doing, she's pushing dirt up against my brand new fence, which is causing my fence to bow in. Her tractors and stuff that she was running back and forth in her yard broke my fence. She didn't bother to say, I'm sorry we broke your fence. So she fixed it, half fixed it. And then there's still pieces of it that are on my side that she hasn't even seen that are broken. And, you know, I'm trying to be civil with her, so I try not to talk to her as much as I can because, you know, they think everything they're doing is in the right, and she wants every little inch of property that she believes is hers. And, you know, it's kind of annoying.
Ma'am, well, first of all, we can't sell property. We cannot sell it, okay? And I'm very cognizant of that because, you know, your mom and all, and my son lived across the street. I think this could have been handled from the beginning, and it never was. There's a discrepancy in the 1920s surveys, but that stupid foot, she has no control over that damn foot. Now, I don't know what we can do about it. She has no control over that foot. She doesn't own it. Now, you don't own it.
Somebody has to own it.
No, the city owns it.
No, we own it.
Yeah. According to the surveys that were done by 3 different companies, I had a survey done too. She had surveys done. The neighbor on the other side had surveys done. Supposedly where the marker lines are in the ground from way back when, there is a foot of property between my yard line and her yard line that the city owns. And
well, in a way, let me finish and then I'll shut up. She should have been told in the beginning, and I brought this up at that time. With Marie here in public. She needs to be told that she can't use it. It's not hers. I don't know what you do about that, Mayor.
Yeah, well, I think
But I'll be damned if I let her use that property or even claim it. I know they've been having trouble over there for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I'd send her a register letter, either signed by you or the attorney or whoever, and tell her that that is not her property, stay off of it.
well, and it's our property, so we have the right to do that.
Yes, we do.
I mean, it's only a foot, and I
It
understand.
doesn't
but-
matter. It's
Right, it's
the
the principle
idea
that
of what
she's thinking
happened.
that everything now, because my fence is put up, everything on the other side of the property is hers. So she literally has broken my fence with all her, doings that she's doing with all her, back and forth, the little mowers and, whatever she's using. And then she's got all this dirt pushed up against my yard because she was told she had to put a swell there so that, because it floods my yard when it rains a lot. So she's pushed all this dirt up against and she's like totally got my brand new fence that I put up a year ago bowed.
Okay.
So it's like, that's why I wanted to come here tonight to see if there's somebody that can maybe help do something.
I think Marie
Well,
and the
Al was gonna
mayor
say
and the
something if
city
you wanna
attorney
chime
should
in.
get together and just say, we'll solve it and let her go home.
Well,
and
let
we'll solve
Al,
it.
Al's.
I remember, and I think it was a couple of years ago now, that I was instructed to offer it to Mrs. Ryabinoff, and she declined it, which I think you mentioned. I was not aware, I was aware that there were issues there. I was not aware that they were focused around the 1 foot. I would ask Tom to comment, but the other things you're mentioning, I would say, are civil in nature between 2 property owners. What you're describing is true with the part that's ours. Clearly, we can make sure that she's not allowed to access that or use it or whatever, but the other things you're talking about, damage to your property and whatnot, I would say that we're giving you solid legal advice. Tom, do you want to comment on that?
First of all, it's all a civil matter. It doesn't have anything to do with the city. Second of all, drawing a line in the sand with regard to that 1 foot, how are we going to ever maintain 1 foot? So what's going to happen there is if you tell her to get off it and this lady can't use it and the other lady can't use it, we won't even be able to maintain it because we cannot walk down a 1 foot section of land. So you're going to have all sorts of stuff that is going to grow up in there and you're not going to be able to maintain it. I don't think that that's the direction that you want to go. Either sell it or not sell it, but don't draw a line in the sand saying one or the other can't use it because we won't be able to maintain it anyhow. But these are all civil matters that have nothing to do with the city, other than the fact that we have ownership interest. If your property is being damaged, your fence or whatever, that's being damaged by your neighbor, you have a cause of action against your neighbor. But it's not the city's responsibility to make sure she does or doesn't do certain things.
Do you have interest in the property if the city were to sell it?
No, I mean, neither one of us did, because if I would have known there was a chance to buy it before I put up a brand-new fence, because originally my fence was over that other foot. And then when she started getting surveys done, I was told I had to move it over a foot, so I put up a brand-new fence back over another foot. Because originally, that's where the homeowner that had the property before her had the fence.
So you don't have an interest in it? And
No, it's the it's the principle of her using it and thinking it's hers, and then pushing all this dirt up against it and bowing the fence and breaking it, and then acting like that she can just do whatever she wants to do, and it's okay. So, I mean, I just didn't know, if there's anything that can be done.
And to Tom and maybe to Al, that I guess the thing is, since it is our property, we can make it clear that they can't be on it. But to your point, then how do we maintain it?
Well, Tom, let me ask you this. I know when we have a right-of-way, we can give the right-of-way half to this outfit and half to this outfit. Can we not just give 6 foot to them and 6 foot here and end this whole thing?
Inches.
Okay, so.
Why can't we do that?
The answer is that you vacate rights of ways and easements, but this is probably a fee simple owned parcel of land. If it's fee simple owned, then that's not, your code doesn't provide for that. It only allows you to vacate rights of way and easements and
But
not.
we own it.
Right, so if you want to give it away half and half,
That settles the whole thing.
yeah, I'm not sure that it does.
Doesn't solve her problem but that's between them.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, like, with her not owning that 1 foot, is there a way that maybe somebody could say, hey, you need to get that dirt off of our foot of property?
That's our
And maybe
property.
it would cause her to take that foot of, she just got it packed on there. And it's gonna cause my fence to rot faster, it's gonna cause, it's already caused it to bow. I mean, it's a brand new fence, it's a year and 2 months old, so.
Yeah.
I just wanted to come down here and see.
No, I think there's something that we can do as far as protecting our land, but, if neither one of you want it, I don't know what we do, so.
Is she putting up any fencing?
She did put up a fence while I was gone for 4 days. She did put up a fence on the other guy's side. She put up a gate only on my side. So if in reality, if you're gonna say, okay, it was the city's foot, then she put it 2 inches from my from my fence. So in reality, she put it over farther, per se, that wasn't even her inch to put it over. I mean, I know it sounds petty, but I just really want her to fix what she damaged and then not have everything, for her to think that it's okay for her to use all that and do whatever she wants over there and nothing, it's okay.
Well, I think we can address that because it's our property.
Correct.
The issues between the two of you, as Tom indicated, it's a civil.
I mean, my mom talks to her because, I can get hot-headed sometimes, and so I let my mom kind of be she's the nice one, and I let her talk to her, and she did break, like 5 panels of the fence, and she fixed it without even telling me that if she broke it, but I noticed it. She told my mom, I'm sorry, but she never told me, which she sees me all the time. And then there's another part that she doesn't even know she broke yet, and I'm waiting to see her so I can say, hey, are you gonna fix this other part that you broke? Because, I'm just trying to be civil with her, but it's just a matter of it's one big headache.
And the color of the house is really attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if any of you have gone over to look at it.
Oh,
I
it
did
looks
yesterday.
like.
It is the ugliest house in the town of Oldsmar.
Wow.
It's pew green and orange, melon color. It's really ugly.
But she hasn't gotten her CO yet because there are other issues that she has to resolve.
Yeah.
And, I don't imagine that
That we don't enforce.
the city is going to sign off on it till they're resolved.
Okay.
That would be my bet.
Again,
I mean, this was my last option because I have spoke to, Stephen and, and them and Greg and them, and I always get the same thing. It's a civil matter.
well, this could have been handled in the beginning,
Okay.
a long time ago.
Okay.
All right, I appreciate it.
Can we get your name again? He wanted to-
Tara, Terra,
Yep.
Caudillo, Caudillo.
Does anybody go to McDonald's?
You're not at that one anymore, are you?
No, I'm not. I'm in Town and Country now.
Heard that, yeah.
I miss you.
And our city manager just said that all of them, or most of her permits are still open, so we do.
Yeah, I think what you're describing as the runaround is simply that none of the permits are closed yet. She doesn't have a CO. I know Tim's been on the property quite often, so it's not over.
Yeah, I mean, because she put up that fence while I was gone, and I'm saying, I was told, Greg said that he went out there and okayed it. But if he knew about that foot of property where that line is, he would have never okayed her to have it over so far.
We'll take a look at that.
Possibly.
Okay.
All right,
We'll take a look at
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on this side of the room? Anybody on this side of the room? Yep. Loretta?
Good evening, council, mayor. I'm glad I rent after hearing that. Loretta Wyatt, 1710 Pinehurst Road in Dunedin. And glad to be back up here again, see all these great faces. I wanted to come up on behalf of the Top of the Bay Garden Club, which is dissolved now, as you know, and thank you for the lovely flowers that you gave us. And also to, excuse me, and also to thank you for the plaque. We really appreciated that. I didn't know I was going to be able to speak at that meeting, so I didn't have anything prepared, but I would like to do it this time if I may. I want to thank Babe Wright, who's with us in the audience tonight, for all of her service to the Top of the Bay Garden Club. Y'all don't know this, but a few years ago, she basically carried our garden club. She had a big fundraiser over what used to be the Civic Club, and we made, I think, a little over $3,000, which back then was a lot of money. And she kind of kept us going for a few years, and I just think she ought to get some thanks for it, so I'd like to do that tonight and have it read into the record. Okay, and it's a sign you're getting old when you have to read from all this. Okay.
But I've been getting old for a long time.
Anyway, I want to thank her for her service to the Top of the Bay Garden Club. She was an original member, like I am. And we started it back in 1977, and in '78 we were federated. And like I say, she put on this fundraiser for us at the old Civic Club, and that was really got us started rolling with the garden club. So, and up until now, we're the only one that was in the city of Oldsmar, so we have had to dissolve. So you might find Babe every now and then, if you look around the city, you might find her messing around with the flowers in your garden beds. Or you might even see her down at Veterans Park. If you do, just let it go, because she's doing stuff that she's been doing for years. It's going to be hard to break the habit, I guess, but if you look at that display that's out there, it looks really nice now. And you go down to the park and look at the display down there where the flags are. We've been trying to take care of that too, but I guess it's be the cities now since we've been dissolved. But anyway, I wanted to be sure that Babe was thanked, because nobody, like I say, I didn't know I was going to be able to speak at that meeting where y'all gave us the plaque, or I would have said it then. She and I are two of the oldest members of the club, original members. We have one other, but we were there from the very beginning.
Well, I'm an old honorary member.
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
Yes, you are what, old or?
Both. I'm old too, Jerry, remember, we gotta get there. Yeah, but you never did any of the work, Jerry.
We're questioning that ourselves.
No, Jerry's always been a big supporter of ours, and we appreciate that. Anyway, bless you, Babe, for all you did.
Thank you, ma'am.
And I have one other little thing, if I might. Can I get Jerry Ann Tozy to come up here if she would? This award that y'all gave us, the garden club in turn gave it to me, because I was one of the older members, I guess. And so I want to give it to the Oldsmar Historical Society, and hopefully they'll display it.
We'll display it.
Okay, and we're going to have some, I'll have a written thing for like a little plaque or something to go on it, so we won't be forgotten. And I don't think we will.
When I came into town in 1978, they had already started, and Jean Sitmer was president of the garden club. And at the time, both these ladies were my neighbors on Shore Drive. So my husband said the only way to start meeting people is to get involved. So I started with the garden club, didn't have any kids then. So in '79, when I did, you know, the ladies used to take you out to lunch, you know, but once you had a baby, forget it. No, no, nice ladies though. And I didn't come to '78. They got started in '77, and they were federated in February of '78.
Yeah, we got Jerry way back then.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that. We
Yeah.
do.
So, but I will display it in the museum.
All right, we thank you, and I will be bringing the, I have a picture I want to go along with it that was
You
taken
two
here.
as neighbors can't get any closer.
No, that's right. That's right.
I have a picture that y'all took in here that I'll give to her to go along with that. And let's see if I left out anything. No, I think I covered it all.
Well, something else you need to know is that Loretta was a big plaque down in the Historical Society. That plaque was.
That was the original members' names that are on there.
And Loretta was president at that time.
Yeah, well, actually, I became president, and Jerry actually wanted to start it, so that's how I came to be, so.
Yep.
You can kind of take a little credit for that too, Jerry. I don't want you to take it for anything else now, but you did help at that start. Anyway, I appreciate the council's indulgent, and just want to be sure that you knew that that plaque you gave us will be in safe hands.
Good.
Downstairs, and I'll get the other stuff to go with it and have it to you in a few days. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you.
She's always been there when the city needed her. I've asked her twice to sit on council.
But then she'd have to sit next to you.
Oh, boy.
And she said yes twice.
Well, thank you. Anybody else on this side of the room like to address the council? Yep. I saw one. I saw another one over there somewhere. I have one of those shirts.
Oh, all right. I don't have any land. I'm not allowed in my wife's garden. And I'm not a poet, so I hope I just don't disappoint. Mayor Bevis, Vice Mayor Siddell, and distinguished council members, and I understand we have a city attorney as well as a city manager. By way of introduction, we are Carla Malone, our CEO, and Joe Neal, Vice President of VIP Warriors. We're a not-for-profit charity in Central Florida supporting our wounded veterans in their recovery through participation in endurance athletic events. For the past 3 years, we have hosted our VIP Honor Our Heroes 5K run. This is our primary fundraiser for the year and would not have been possible without the outstanding contribution, cooperation, and support of the city of Oldsmar. In recognition of your support, VIP Warriors would like to present you with this plaque. And Mayor, could you come down, please?
Oh, wow, very nice.
Beautiful. It's a K-bar knife introduced in World War II in 1942 by the Marine Corps and adopted by the Navy in 1943. It's currently in use by the armed forces in different variations since then.
That's awesome.
It was presented, or it was provided to us for presentation to you by Captain Norm Olson, U.S. Navy SEAL, retired. He is a supporter and a friend of VIP Warriors.
Says VIP Warriors HOH 5K run presented to the city of Oldsmar, May 26, 2018, from a special brand of Warriors, U.S. Navy SEALs.
Is that a K-bar?
Thank you.
It's on the back, and I've got copies for you.
That's great. Yeah, that'd be great.
So,
Mayor,
Yes.
I have my uncle's K-bar from Okinawa in 1943 and 1945.
my last experience was in 1962. There you go.
His next detachment would have been Tokyo.
Tokyo.
But the two bombs took care of that.
No, here, we'll get this picture. Oh, I'm sorry. You think I know this? Right? In front of the seal.
Too bad you didn't get to wear it on your shirt.
Can you angle that down?
Do whatever you say.
Nice.
Oh, here you go. I'll take it.
So much.
You're welcome.
Our Leisure Services Director finished third in his
Yes.
age group in the race Nan finished the race with Daryl. Dave, did you run? Well, Dave was one of the organizers.
He worked.
If I missed anybody, I'm sorry, but I stood there the whole time. But I was there.
Anybody else on this side of the room? I saw another hand. Yep. I see an arm. Oh, Tony. I could just see, all I saw was your hand pop up.
Yeah, it's there. Somebody wake Adam up? There you go. Tony.
Craig and Tony Gross, 711 Satin Leaf Avenue. That picture pretty much explains why we're here tonight, to thank each of you for your participation in making this sign happen. And when we were at Busch Gardens a couple weeks ago, we got caught in a deluge.
Stop. Don't tell
And
this
Craig
story.
paid $10 for this poncho. Gonna raffle this poncho off tonight to raise money.
That's worth it.
Do you want to put it on? He looks like a big Smurf with it on. This was the signage that Oldsmar and Safety Harbor and Pinellas County helped to pass a resolution for. And it is the Gold Star Family Memorial Bridge dedicated to Corporal Frank R. Gross.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
show it to one of the cameras.
Adam, which one can you get it on?
I don't want to hold that, Frank.
Face me. Oh,
Yesterday at Frankie's Patriot Barbecue, we had a dedication ceremony because we thought that we really did not want to make front page news by having fatalities from Oldsmar at the site of the location, which is State Road 580. And it does separate the bridges between Safety Harbor and Oldsmar. So we decided to have a dedication ceremony at Frankie's Patriot Barbecue. And in the picture that was just shown a couple minutes ago, all of Oldsmar City Council showed up. But not in the picture, but in attendance was City Manager Al. I'm going to try to pronounce your last name.
You couldn't do it any worse than anybody else has done it, so don't worry about it.
Ripley.
ow.
Al. Also in attendance, but not in the picture, was City Clerk Ann Nixon, and we had 3 Oldsmar Fire Rescue personnel there as well, and that was because of the special attention that you gave and reached out to many of our board members and Veterans Advisory Board and everyone. So Craig and I want to thank you all.
I was really proud of the city. Felicia was there
Felicia
as
was there,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was,
Felicia was there, and who else was there that I,
Over here. Ann?
Ann was there, yeah.
oh yeah, I just said Ann.
Yep.
Yes, and who else
Yep.
was there that I may not have mentioned from Oldsmar?
Yeah, you got it. Yep, the firefighters, yeah, that was
Yes.
great.
Thank you, Felicia.
Paula was there.
And from Safety Harbor, Commissioner Nancy Blessor was there, and Commissioner Clef Mertz, and Andy Zerdrow. And from Pinellas County Board of Commissioners was Chairman Ken Welch, Commissioner Eggers, and Barodi.
Our new commissioner, JJ.
Barodi, yes. And also was in attendance was Robert Esposito with the Florida Department of Transportation. Generally, something like this takes a long time, but he expedited it, and we were very appreciative.
And the most exciting guy there to me was Mel.
Oh, the older gentleman. Yeah.
Was Mel Cunningham, yes, 96-year-old World War II military Order of the Purple Heart recipient.
Thank you for the photograph.
Yeah.
That's great. And then there was some lady that's married to the governor. I think she was there, wasn't she?
Ann Scott was there.
First lady.
First Lady Ann Scott was there, but she was there for a meet and greet with our Gold Star families, and with it being the 7th anniversary of Frank's death, We just felt like it would be a great location and time to hold it, a great flow. But the sign is a lot more than just a sign. The sign does show Oldsmar's support for our military families and our military, and it also shows Oldsmar's support of our veteran families as well. It also shows Oldsmar's pride in the loss of one of its own, and that's Corporal Frank R. Gross. And there may be more fallen warriors from Oldsmar, but as of right now, he's the only fallen that we're aware of. Is that right, Jerry?
Well, didn't we have one just move in town?
But Oldsmar's only
Yeah, oh, yeah.
home of residence. Yeah. And it also shows Oldsmar's honor towards its family of the fallen. So it's just a lot more than just a sign to us, and I think to every Oldsmar resident. Yes.
And I didn't find this out till yesterday. Representative Grant said that this is the first bridge in the state of Florida
Yes.
dedicated to Gold Star families, and it's right here in.
Yes.
in Oldsmar.
Yes. And we do want to thank District 64 Florida House State Representative Jamie Grant, who I initially contacted and worked with me throughout the whole year to get this passed as a bill into a law, and Governor Scott signed it.
Yep.
So thank you so much, Oldsmar. Craig and I appreciate your effort, and it wouldn't have happened without y'all.
Tony,
Yes, sir.
get with Eric Seidel, Vice Mayor. Get with him, because he's going to get with you, and he's going to give you another task for the city of Oldsmar, the Gold Star families, anybody that has fallen, the Purple Heart. You're going to be a big part of this. I'm putting you on the spot right now. Eric will explain it to you.
I just want to explain it to you right at the moment.
Yeah.
We talked about putting something together yesterday.
That was a beautiful
Dedication. I mean, it really was. It just, I don't know, in such a difficult, heart-wrenching, type of emotion to deal with. It was a beautiful event. I think everybody, Jerry and I were talking about it tonight.
It's kind of the silver lining in the.
It felt right. It felt good. So
it did.
congratulations to the two of you, and thank you from the city.
Yeah.
Because while, the city's all embraced it, the two of you really, clearly were the champions, and our citizens are proud to have that here.
Yeah.
So thank you.
One thing, having the World War II veteran there meant a lot to me, because I was in the first grade when Pearl Harbor was bombed. Thank you.
Mel Cunningham is a very close friend of mine, of ours, and he will be at every event that we host, everyone, because he is a treasure, 96 years old, and we don't know how much longer we'll have
Can't
him for.
imagine the treasure he was to me.
I could tell in the picture of the.
How about we come down and take a picture?
That would be great. Craig
Well,
wants to
and
say
just for the record, for
something.
the sheriff's department, that's a mock-up. They didn't take the sign from the bridge.
Just 1 second before we take the pictures, if we could, please. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a huge event, bigger than a Kia sales event, huge, coming to the Tampa Bay area, and it's the Warrior Games. I want to try to get as many people involved in this as possible. We're going to need hundreds of volunteers. But more important, we're going to need spectators. We need to get people out to these events. In Chicago, which was a huge event, you would go to the events and the stands were filled with maybe 1/3 to maybe 1/2 of their capacity. Chicago's a huge town. And I want Tampa Bay to outshine every city that has hosted it thus far. If we can get 60,000 people to go watch a football game with guys that won't stand up for the flag, we can get 60,000 people to go watch soldiers who will.
Okay.
I believe that.
Amen.
So
Come on out and
my wife is telling me to stop, but I want to say thank you very much to this city. Honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm growing up again in the modern Mayberry. you know? We got, you know, Sheriff Taylor back there, and, you know, and, you know, I don't know where Opie's at, but it's great. And I love this city, and I love you people very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go down. You come.
Opie said. Right here.
Ain't got all night.
All of us? All right, let's go.
Here, you gotta get up.
I gotta get up.
There's a sandwich down here.
Do you want?
Right here.
Come on.
Alicia, you were there. Come on. And you were there. Come on.
Oh, perfect.
Don't forget to put on your poncho. Anybody else anywhere in the room that would like to address the council? Seeing no one, will close the citizens' open forum, do a quick mayor's minute. A couple recap items. Project Pop Drop, thank you to our residents and businesses for their generosity towards this year's Project Pop Drop, all benefiting Oldsmar Cares. I believe it was over 8,000 pounds of food, is that correct? Well, about 8,000 pounds worth of food. Pinellas County Sheriff's Office opening, the new North County District Station, southwest corner of Bay Shore Boulevard and Curlew in Dunedin. What a great facility. If you get a chance to stop by, voluntarily, I should say, stop by. Forest Lakes Boulevard expansion. Thank you to the Pinellas County staff who conducted an open house to explain the important expansion for Oldsmar. That is Forest Lakes from Pine to Racetrack Road. We Mean Business, our monthly visit to with the Upper Tampa Bay Chamber of Commerce, the city manager and myself in June. We visited Bank United, which is right there by the Hampton Inn, and MI Metals, which Al loved it. Actually, for those that don't know, they didn't actually assemble them, but they manufactured all the bleachers and that is at our Oldsmar Sports Complex for the BMX track. They've also done all the grandstands for Daytona and Talladega. All the grandstand work was done. A company out of, I think, Lakeland, actually purchased it, but they manufacture it right here in Oldsmar.
Are they on Commerce?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty interesting facility.
Well, they were, they manufactured and produced the most cardboard boxes in the South.
Oh, well, this is Metals.
I know they own it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Also, Chief O'Neill's retirement party. Congratulations to the fire and EMS chief on his 25 years of service to our community. Welcome interim Chief Tom Brennan. Sandbag demonstration, saw the new Sandmaster 20 in action, capable of producing 20 sandbags, which each session, 25 sandbags are already filled and ready should we need those. That was pretty cool. I went by and watched it. They can fill 200 sandbags in an hour. So I got to tell you, our staff is really happy about it because it saved a bunch of backs. And when we have a hurricane coming, the last thing we need our staff doing is filling sandbags when they could be doing other stuff to prepare for the hurricane. So obviously the Frank R. Gross Bridge dedication ceremony that we just heard about, the art reception across the street is open, held tonight, and it will be there. How long is it there for? Do we know? 2 months. It's pretty neat if you haven't had a chance. Probably one of the neater art collections that we've had in the city of Oldsmar. So A lot of three-dimensional art in there. Upcoming events, the free electronics and chemical mobile collection, Saturday, July 28th. That reminds me, I got to do that. 9 to 2 at the North County Satellite Site. That's US 19, just south of Curlew, right by the GTE Bank. Purple Heart Recognition Day, Tuesday, August 7th at 6:30. All welcome to attend at Dunedin's Purple Heart Park. And that almost wraps it up. And the reason I don't have this one on there is because our assistant city manager approves the mayor's minute. So I didn't want this on there because then she would know. Felicia Donnelly, who is the president of the Florida Recreation and Parks Association, recently was at Tropicana Field.
Look at this. Look
at
the
there. Throwing out the pitch.
Light her up. Yes.
Come on, Donald, you can do this. It's the setup and the pitch. It's a strike.
It's a strike.
Threw the changeup, but it was still a strike.
I'll tell you what, there was a better pitch than the mayor threw at the Little League opening day. I'm just saying. Although I called it a strike.
All in the snap. Well, that's great. I was going to put you on the spot and ask you who the catcher is, but you probably don't know.
It took us 4 innings and her husband looking at the roster, but we figured out who it was. We didn't know. It was Jose De Leon, was it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
One of the younger players, let's put it that way.
That's great. So that wraps that part up, and as I said, we're going to bump the items 7, 8, and 9, and 10 up, and they will then become permanent parts of the agenda at the beginning, because in the interest of time. Our first item is the presentation of the Council Manager Award for July 2018, and Councilmember Debbie McGee will be doing that.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think this evening, if I hadn't selected this very deserving person, probably our entire council would have selected this person. It is my honor this evening to give our Council Manager Award of Recognition to Sharon Edwards. So Sharon, if you'd come up, I'm going to read a little bit about you. Congratulations. So previously, the mayor mentioned almost 8,000 pounds of food donated, and that wouldn't be possible without the effort of Sharon. So Sharon was born in Michigan. She moved to Oldsmar in 1982 with her parents. She was in the bar and restaurant business for 22 years, then sold tanning lotions for a local company for 13 years, all while caring for her elderly parents. One day she said, "God, there's got to be more to life than body butter." She started working for Platinum International, selling toner cartridges for printers to businesses throughout the country. Platinum International takes a percentage of the proceeds from toner sales and buys food and feeds the homeless every single month. This is called Project Pop Drop. They contribute to feeding over 90,000 meals every single month to different homeless shelters. Sharon decided in 2015 to bring Project Pop Drop to Florida. After showing up to a few different shelters, she realized that these places needed so much more than just food. So she had an idea, and she decided to start collecting gently used clothing, shoes, and toiletries. She stored what was collected at a local storage unit until she met the good people at Beamworks, one of our local businesses. They asked to go on a pop drop with Sharon. They offered her to store all that she collects at their warehouse, which they refer to as God's Locker. They also donate their trucks to deliver all of the goods. Sharon is a firm believer in when you do God's work, He places amazing people in your life's path. Amazing people keep showing up. Sharon then met Josh Powell, the general manager at Walmart, and he was so impressed with what she was doing, he wanted to get involved, and he gifts grants to the different shelters that she visits every month. Project Pop Drop just completed their biggest drop at Oldsmar Cares. 43 businesses $1,500 from Platinum International, 7,523 pounds of food, $600 in toiletries, $500 in cash, a $1,000 grant from Walmart, and one large box truck filled with clothing. She loves getting the community involved each and every month and believes that together we can make a difference. So it is our honor as a council to award this to you for everything that you do out of your own heart. Can't thank you enough. You're very deserving. You're welcome. Kathy usually cries, so since Kathy's not here, it's okay. We gotta have someone to cry.
Thank you.
What's funny, and the city of Oldsmar is honored to be a part of it, but no sooner than we were finished with this Oldsmar Project Pop Drop, she's like, we need backpacks. I mean, so I mean, it's one thing as a city to do this in, you know, a pretty heavy month of us doing this, but as soon as she's done, she turns around again and starts all over again for another shelter. This is going to Metropolitan Ministries. How many backpacks? I saw that the dentist gave a tremendous amount.
The Oldsmar Dentistry gave 30. There's 20 boxes out there still, collection boxes at different businesses in the Oldsmar area. So we're over 140, I believe, right now. But I don't know what's in the 20 boxes out there still.
And it's just the backpack itself, they got the stuff to put in it, just the backpacks for the students. So, well, it's fun. 43 businesses, you kept me hopping. So.
Very creative in the chamber, so it's been an amazing.
Together, we can make a difference.
I came out to get a haircut and I was coming out of the place and these two, the mayor and she was out there with a bunch of food and boxes.
Oh, yeah.
Mayor?
Oh. I'll do the next presentation. This is great. It has to be the heaviest award. It's the presentation of the Government Finance Officer Association Distinguished Budget Presentation Award to the City of Oldsmar. And Cindy, come on up.
Turn the mic off too, Mayor.
I'll have that piece of hardware to you. Al was telling me that they used to give out one of these every time, and then they got a little cheap and they went to the little medallions. But how many years have we done this? 5. That's awesome. So if we could have kept getting it, we could have tiled City Hall, I think, with them. But at any rate, you want to tell everybody who you got up here and what this award means? We know it means a lot to us.
Yeah, we're actually very proud of this award. I'd like to introduce our budget staff. Garrett Zieloff, he is the finance administrator. Sandy Winkler, she is a budget and financial analyst. John Dauphiné, he's a financial analyst. And then Paula Horton, she's our senior admin assistant. Another one of our staff members, our number cruncher, Amy Ratliff, wasn't able to be here tonight. But basically the award is, it was kind of always something that we had chased after. Al gave us the support to go after our dreams and try and get this award. Our budget, we worked very hard, went to classes, we bought books to learn how to do this. Our budget document increased about 75 pages in 1 year. So basically it went from being just a bunch of numbers to a communication device. So it's really a fabulous document. If you haven't seen it, look on our website, we'll have it up tomorrow. It's a great document. We just finished our 18-19 budget, and I think it's even better than the one we just did.
It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you.
It is incredible.
And I think Al was telling me, and I don't remember exactly, but I mean, the award is great, but what it means is really the incredible part, because I don't know how many people, Al, you told me review, but I mean, there's an army of people that review these budgets that get submitted, and you know, they're pretty meticulous about going through them and grading them and scoring them for different things. So I mean, it's, you know, it's a budget, but it's more than a budget. And for us as a city, I'm sure I speak that, it makes us proud as council members to have a great staff like you guys and Al, to represent us in our budget. And, to me, it's also about transparency. The more, information that's in there that, not that our residents are gonna go home and read it, but it's all there, so.
Wait, they don't?
Maybe they will now.
But, anyway, Al, you wanna add anything to that?
Only that Cindy's being modest. This was Cindy's vision long ago, and it's a tremendous accomplishment, and her staff is incredible, but she's the motivation behind most of it and all the work that went into it, so we should appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Al. Thank the council for giving us such a wonderful city, and you make it easy for us to make the city look good, so.
Right.
Thank you.
I'll pay you later.
You make us look good.
She's been here 19 years. 19 years Cindy's been here. That's a long time.
And Paula always has candy, by the way.
Good to know. The other thing that's important about that, it's not just the transparency, it's the confidence in the numbers. The numbers are solid, you can trust them, they're you can have.
When you make them public, you gotta be able to stand behind them, so.
It's awesome.
Been
Congratulations.
going on for what, 20 years now, 19 years?
The other award we've gotten for over 20,
This is 5 years.
20 years, or this is.
Yeah, I know this is a
Or the
5
other
years.
one relating to the
19
budget, but
years.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Our next item is the presentation of the 2018 Award of Excellence in Public Procurement. And Cindy, if you want to come up and bring up whoever you need as well. This is kind of an interesting award. Al was telling me about it, and Cindy can go into it a little bit more in detail. Throughout the whole state of Florida, municipalities and government agencies within the state, I think, might be eligible for this, but there were only 16, if my number is correct, 16 agencies that even received this award, and the city of Oldsmar is the only city with a population of less than 15,000 that won the award throughout the whole state of Florida. So I think that's a great honor. I hope we have Windex to clean this thing off. 2018 Award for Excellence in Public Procurement, City of Oldsmar. I'll give that to you, and you can share with your team and tell us a little bit more about procurement. People might not even know exactly what that means, but introduce your team, please.
Okay, basically this is from the Florida Association of Public Procurement Officials. So this is an award that is given out to agencies in the state of Florida. You have to apply for it. You have to meet a whole myriad of requirements they kind of evaluate your agency and your rules and procedures and basically your procurement function. Basically, what procurement does is we make sure everybody follows the rules to buy what they need to do business. We don't tell them what to buy, but we just make sure they follow the rules. And then we also try to make sure they get the best value while following the rules. Our procurement team is Katie Doherty. She's our procurement specialist. Barry Apple, he is our stores clerk. And of course, Garrett Zieloff, he's our finance administrator. So I'll let Katie tell a little bit about the organization and what the award means.
Thanks, Cindy.
Eric, this is more transparency.
Yep.
Big time. FAPO is a state-based organization. I'm sure there's similar organizations in other states. One of several that the city has a entity-wide membership in. They host various conferences throughout the year, offer scholarship programs for training courses to help procurement professionals get different levels of certification, a few workshops, and a large annual conference. They also do some best practice work and offer several awards in those fields. Essay contests for unique and novel ideas that public procurement officials are utilizing in their day-to-day work, as well as this award of excellence, which included, I think, around 7 categories of criteria that essentially speak to the progressiveness and transparency, like you were saying, of our procurement practices. How accessible is our information to our internal and external customers? how fair and open are our competitions. So it is very impressive that for such a small city, we are very progressive when it comes to utilizing the internet, using electronic means, reducing our paper waste, and trying to be as efficient as possible. There's criteria regarding the qualifications and educational levels of our procurement staff. So we certainly wouldn't have gotten this award if these wonderful people weren't as good at what they do as they are. It was a long application process, but they made it much easier for me and Barry to put together. And I'm really, really proud of it. And they actually paid our way to the state conference to receive the award as part of the award. So they saved us, the award saved the city some money too.
There you go.
Yeah, procurement loves that, so.
I hope they bid it out. Thanks. Awesome, yep. I'll just do whatever Deb tells us to do.
Very. Thank you.
Awesome, congratulations. Our next item on the agenda is our 2017 Clean Transportation Achievement. This is actually pretty cool, and I'll read the letter that was sent to us by Tampa Bay Clean Cities Coalition. Thank you for participating in Tampa Bay Clean Cities Coalition 2017 annual report submitted to the U.S. Department of Energy. The data you were provided on the sales of alternative fuels, deployment of alternative fuel vehicle, idle reduction initiatives, fuel economy activities, and programs to reduce vehicle miles traveled helps DOE analyze petroleum use and greenhouse gas reduction impacts for our region. During the 2017 coalition, stakeholders and members displayed a total of 8.9 million gallons of petroleum, displaced a total of 8.9 million gallons of petroleum and removed 12.3 thousand tons of greenhouse gas emissions through their clean transportation efforts. This reporting also helps us show off our organization's hard work and progress in the achievement of alternative fuels. For 2017, the city of Oldsmar displaced 13,311 gallons of petroleum and removed 75.6 tons of greenhouse gas emissions in the Tampa Bay region. In appreciation of your clean transportation achievements and assistance in submitting this annual data, we are presented with you with an enclosed certificate. We are proud of the city's accomplishments and want you to help share them. So here's the certificate. We'll give that to Nan when we're all done. But I think it's great, and it was a mission of ours to become a kind of a green city, and the displacement of petroleum products and the removal of greenhouse gases, I think, goes a long way to that. So a big round of applause to Nan and her staff for their hard work.
And if there's any department we left out tonight, please come on down. No. Sorry, I just couldn't resist.
You're kind of right, because the library was across the street. That, so. Yes?
In 5 minutes. How do we do that?
Nan? Or whoever?
I know how we do it. I know we don't do it. They do it.
I can do it in less than 5 minutes. Nan Bennett, Public Works Director. It's a combination of the electric cars we use, the charging stations, and the other initiatives that the city does to try to use alternative fuels and to reduce greenhouse gases.
Awesome.
Pretty simple.
I think it was important that we know what we're talking about.
Next is the Community Redevelopment Agency. We have 2 items in there. First item is discuss the results for the City Council Town Center Code Workshop. Mr. Braithwaite?
Yes, sir. The results of the recent Town Center Code Workshop are summarized in a staff report by Marie, and maybe Marie would be available. There she is, to come up and
you throw me when you sit
summarize.
over there.
Yeah, I was looking over there, and she left.
Different
I saw John
perspective.
leave, and I thought. So anyway, Marie, you want to take it from here? This is kind of a summary, but there's a potential council action to be had if you'd like.
Yeah, this is a summary or an update from the council work session that we had in April. the council wanted clarification or a recommendation with regards to different sections of the code. So the first one we talked about was height in the town center, and how do you measure it? You measure it from grade or BFE. So we have determined that we are going to measure it based on the design flood elevation, and that is the base flood elevation, and that's determined by our firm maps, the flood insurance rate maps by FEMA. And we have a 1 foot of freeboard, so that is BFE plus freeboard is design flood elevation.
We will not have a 3.5-story house next to somebody else in this town center anymore, will we?
Well, I'm going to just show you some pictures and give you an idea about height. Gabby, had a question about how high the library was.
That's what I'm talking about. What Gabby brought up and what was.
So I'm going to show you that, and then I just need consensus from the council if we're going to do it from grade or from the design flood elevation. Otherwise, I think that it's going to create a hardship for, infill development or development in the special flood hazard area. So that is a structure. You can see the grade. The DFE is 2 feet above the grade, and the maximum height of this building is 28 feet. So if we were going to measure that from the DFE, it would be 26 feet.
The limit?
No, I'm just showing you what has been built in the CRA. Here's another one. It's still, the garage is underneath. You can see where the grade is. The design flood elevation is 2 feet. The first floor is actually 9 feet. We are not going to measure this structure from, the living area. We're going to do it from the design flood elevation. So the maximum height here is 34 feet. So we would say, using the design flood elevation, 32 feet.
And I know these are examples, but just for reference, I guess, to Gabby and maybe to Jerry's point, how high could this be above the DFE?
35 feet.
35, and it's 32 right there.
34?
32.
34.
But if we're going to
two.
use the design flood elevation, it's 32 feet.
Okay.
And the reason for that too is you'll be seeing the preliminary flood maps that will be presented to council probably within this year, and the base flood elevation has increased 3 feet, so it'll be another 4 feet for that. This property is a mixed-use property. You can see the grade, design flood elevation is 2 feet, and the maximum height is 40 feet. This is town center commercial neighborhood. It's allowed to go 4 stories, so that's part of the code. So you can see that actually it would be 38 feet with the design flood elevation.
So when you say it could go 4 stories in the TCC,
N.
At TCCM, what could have that been from a maximum height if they went all the way up?
I think 45 feet.
45 feet? It could have been at 5 feet
45
higher
feet.
than what that is?
That's actually, no, because that's 38 feet.
Well, it'd been another
plus
7 feet.
Another 7
yeah.
feet, yeah.
Yeah, and didn't we talk, I'm trying to recall, because I know it's been a while since the work session, didn't we talk about potentially, I know we said, let's see what certain things are, but I think the intention of seeing what these heights were was to put a maximum within these certain.
The TCCN, that's south of St. Pete Drive. There's the library site, the next one, you'll see that. This is also TCCN. So this height here, you can see it's at 32 feet. So you want something a little bit higher than what would be in the TCB. I think the issue with the Beckland property is that originally it was TCB, Town Center Boulevard, and they received approval of rezoning to TCCN. So it's kind of out there, not not consistent with the rest of the properties along that. But as development occurs, or redevelopment or infill, I think that it won't seem so out of place. But so here's the library site. We have the maximum height at 33 feet. The pre-construction grade was very low, and for some reason, and we could not find out why, they put in 2.5 feet of fill, which would not be permitted now. So the design flood elevation is actually below where they brought the fill in. So it's kind of a different situation.
It's kind of the reverse if we apply the same logic.
Yes.
So that would actually be 37.
We didn't really understand why they did it unless they were anticipating, in the future, so that our flood insurance wouldn't increase, that, we wanted to make sure it was high enough.
Who are they?
The engineer at the time.
What engineer?
The architect and engineer, huh? Harvard Jolly?
Yeah.
Why they did what? They don't do anything unless we let them.
That was part of the agreement, so it could have been, we just weren't sure, we couldn't tell from like the records why that occurred, so.
Y'all made the records.
No, we could not find them, we looked for them. So this was and it was a special circumstance because even though the city was the project manager, that's the way the plans came through. I really don't know, Jerry.
Okay, well I think that's fine. So again.
I think they wanted to make a statement because it was supposed to be one of the anchors.
We did want to make a statement because that was the anchor down there.
Right, and I think that's why the fill was brought in to give it more of a presence. But I can't say for sure, that's just my assumption.
I just had a quick question. So the TCB, what's the max height or stories in the TCB? Because you're saying that property particularly there, it used to be TCB.
I think that was 35 feet. Stephen, do you recall?
So it's the same.
35 feet. Yeah.
What property was that?
I'm talking about the
St.
one
Pete
with the
and
three-story now at Park and St. Pete.
Because we always talked about the boulevard and, and the reason you'd have a TCB designation was to have that more mixed use, maybe, a little retail like a coffee shop or something
But
like
what was
that.
the reason that we changed it to a TCCM? Why did they request the change?
I'll have
So
to
that they could
research
get the higher
this.
height or?
No, so that they could have a live-work kind of situation, and they needed like 2 stories, or maybe go to 3 stories.
Okay.
Some of those units there will be actually 2 stories.
That's the ones on the park. But
Yeah.
see, but that was done 20 years ago. What I'm asking is, can that happen again down here? Just say no.
There's yes.
In the TCCN, yes, it can go up to 45 feet.
So I guess.
I suggest,
But everything will come to council.
that's fine.
Everything comes to council in
Comes
this
to
area.
council, so I'll vote
I
against it.
get, well, because obviously next to the library, even one of the things I pointed was I felt like it should be, whatever goes there probably should be higher than the library. So if you change that or you limit it, say, to 35 feet, you kind of limit the potential development that would be different. So I don't know if maybe, it just seems like maybe potentially we shouldn't have made that change, or, because my concern is, based off of what happened, they could have added another, 7 feet. I think once it's done, I agree that it's.
And once
it's gonna-
infill
and
occurs.
once St. Pete Drive is
Well,
done, I think
you already
it's
got a
not
big
gonna.
2-story next
But
to
I'm
you.
just-
We can't do that again.
My concern, though, is, if they have every right to go to, say,
Yes.
45 feet in the future, even if it comes before us, I don't know, I just have concerns. Maybe we should look at what potentially we already have designated as TCCM and where it's located, because my concern would be that should probably be TCB if it's close to other residential houses, because we don't want something 45 feet next to a residential house.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that.
Well, there's like a history with that too. There was the recession. We were trying to encourage development.
I remember.
We don't want that kind of development next to,
I remember, and you know what, Jerry, we did reapprove it.
Yeah, I think we just need to be careful
So,
about what someone
might
could do
have
in the
happened
future.
Originally 10 years ago or something
no,
like that.
20 years ago.
But we
20 years-
approved
but we
it, yeah.
reapproved it because it
Yeah,
expired.
well, I probably did, but y'all didn't.
And it's starting to take shape, but my concern is someone else could build an additional 7 feet, and that would not fit with what, we're trying to achieve, I think.
The other thing that starts to come into play is, okay, I don't know how often FEMA changes what the floodplain is, but it sounds like they're getting more and more aggressive about it. So if the floodplain changes again.
That could push it up even higher.
In a couple of years, and we're going off, the degraded.
BFE, base flood elevation.
Right, okay, so if we're going off that all of a sudden, now we're doing one of these. I mean, it's a difficult thing all around. I mean, it's, I personally, I think it's worthy of our time to actually, on this particular subject of heights, is to have a workshop on it and really go through it. I don't agree with Gabby as it relates to something taller next to the library.
I have a different view of that, respectfully.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that I think you nailed, by the way, the summary that we all received.
Yeah.
I think you really did a good job of summarizing, but I think this is a one-off that to specifically drill into the concerns, because I share Jared's concern as well. We probably don't want that type of, every time I go past, and I think it's gonna be all right, but for the longest time, every time I drove past it, I just
Yeah,
go,
it's tough.
what do we do?
It's a monster.
And imagine if it was 7 feet taller.
Right, I
That
didn't
would
even
be-
realize that at the
yeah.
time, and so I think it's worthy of us
Yeah.
looking at that and
What
evaluating.
we're trying to do is make it more urban, increase
Yeah.
the
agree.
intensity, the density. And you can go around to surrounding communities. I went through Safety Harbor on Sunday and I noticed that, there was a lot of, very large, residential
like it.
units. Yes, they were, because
residents
it's like
don't like
growing
it.
pains, but Dunedin, the same, that's where I live and there's a lot of.
No, as it relates to residential units, with the exception of unless you're talking about something multifamily, having a single family doesn't really do much for the density.
Correct.
So, and that to me is kind of the point,
Yeah.
where having a single family that has the ability to end up being 35 feet tall or some kind of disproportionate to a neighbor, there's no value in density to that. There is candidly to property values, but presumably, unless it hurts the property value next door, which that theory doesn't really hold true.
That's infill development. All new development is going to be larger, higher than the,
Gotta be.
that are there.
I think
Right.
personally what I would love to see maybe would be provide some clarity is if we could look at sort of the map of Oldsmar and where those zones are, the TCCM, the TCB, and then with the note that says the max height of each of those zones. Because we could easily look at a map and
It
say.
would be a good snapshot
Yeah,
for
maybe,
us.
okay, maybe it shouldn't be zoned that because that's so close to sort of residential and, you wouldn't want someone to
Bree
come
knows
in.
I like maps.
Yeah, I think.
I asked her for that.
Actually, I'm gonna
but-
pass this out ahead of time. This was for
Because it's got-
It's kind of like the last minute that we put it together, so you're going to identify exactly.
I do like the idea of the workshop also that
Hey.
Derek mentioned, because when I was in your office, Marie, with Steven, and you showed me those maps of the flood zone that might change, I think that would be a good item to bring to the work session, so that you can share that with everybody that I've seen with you.
Well, and to that point, and I think Gabby's point, and I think we mentioned it at the last one, when we were first just talking about plain simple 45 feet from the dirt, that's one thing, but now all of a sudden, if you're adding 5 or 6 feet to that, and that's where you start to measure, ginormous comes to mind, so, yeah. Is there any, and I think I asked this at the last one, is there any way to do it so that the closer you are, and I don't know how you would regulate it, but the
A step
closer,
back.
the closer you are, that it's kind of a gradual. I know Clearwater Beach has some of that, you can't just go from a, one-story 1960s house to a monstrosity, and I don't know how you would.
They do? Clearwater Beach has that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do quite a bit. Yeah, like the Hampton or whatever that's out there, as you get towards the center where the sand pearl and all that are in the core right there. But as you get away towards the residential, up towards Carluel,
It gets, yeah.
yeah, there's some that's
It might be a
grandfathered in,
different
like,
zoning district or.
Regatta obviously is grandfathered in because that's been there a while, forever. But I think I've been told that they have kind of a graduated
Well,
thing out there.
you can do something, you can step back, you don't have to have the 6 stories right, on the edge, but if you want to.
It would just be good to review it and see where we
Yeah.
might have some exposure
I
right now that.
I agree, yeah, and what's the Galleria? That seems pretty tall too, isn't it?
It's 3 stories, but we didn't take the height of that on.
No, I just,
Curiosity.
Yeah, just out of
It
curiosity.
would be
That's-
good to know in the future too.
No, it's retail on the bottom.
It's gotta be 4, it's tall.
Yeah, 2 stories
At the corner.
Correct.
Yeah, so, okay. What are you looking?
That could not exceed the 45 feet, so it might be just at 45 feet, I don't know.
So what are you looking for something from us? I think the consensus is probably a workshop with a map that can tell us where these areas are and how we address them, I guess. Because the question I was going to ask is of Tom is, if somebody's in a particular area that allows 45 feet, whether it's St. Pete Drive and Park, if they're allowed 45 feet, it's kind of hard for us to stop them from having that, isn't it?
That's right. If they apply for their building
Yeah.
permit, while the code reads that particular way, they're entitled to it.
Yeah.
And so you need to allow them to do that.
That's why I think we
We need to change
need
it.
to we need to
Make
review it,
adjustments
and
to it.
I think there are certain areas that it might.
Well, the map that I just passed out, if you can read it, where it says TCCN, you know, the pink in the redevelopment area, that can go to 4 stories.
So that's 45, max of 45 feet?
Yes, yes. And then the gray fronting on Tampa Road and also the interior street of State Street, that can go up to 6 stories.
Which one is that?
The TCCR,
And that can go how high?
up to 6,
Because that's the town center?
yes,
6
That's not-
stories or how feet?
6 stories.
Do you know what the total feet is, off the top of your head? I'm just curious.
Is it a footage or a storages? I mean, what if you had
Well,
12 foot?
45 feet's 44 stories, so
Yeah, so maybe it'll be up to 60.
60 feet.
I'm just
I
guessing.
mean, what if you
I
had
don't have the
10 or
code in
12
front
foot
of-
ceiling?
Definitely close to 60. if
So
not.
that would be beside City Hall.
Sure, and you would need that.
Because
That kind of ability to create density.
Well, we've
down
talked
there.
about that over
Yeah,
here, you know.
in
for-
that particular area.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. So, okay.
Okay.
Is there any other ones that are like up to 40 feet on that list besides?
No, just the TCCN.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Then that solves my question.
Can we cut off your presentation right there? Or we just
Oh,
like-
no.
we just
Let's
pounce?
go on to the sidewalks.
Okay.
So we're giving you examples of sidewalk widths in the city. So they're anywhere from 5 feet to 12 feet. We thought most of them in the CRA were 6, but that was not true. And here's an overall map. It's in your packet. It's a little hard to read. So this one is 10 feet. It's Oldsmar Trail. It's along Bayview Boulevard, so it's a 10-foot wide sidewalk. And I'm just giving you examples of.
Sure.
There's no real consistency in the CRA with regard to sidewalk width. Dartmouth at Bayview Boulevard, that's 5 feet. There could be opportunity to widen that at some time. Oldsmar Cares, that's 6 feet along State Road 580. They did get a variance, so they did not have to provide the 10-foot wide sidewalk. By the library, it's 8 feet.
So the city got a variance.
And then St. Pete Drive next to the Galleria, you can see it's 5 feet, and then, you know, the brick area is 9.6 feet. And then here by Jefferson Avenue, next to Oldsmar Cares, they also obtained a variance 6 feet. And in front of the Chamber of Commerce on State Street, that's 12 feet. State Street next to Goodrich, it's 6 feet. So the point being, we wanted to have a requirement that to go to 10 feet in the event, you know, it's in the redevelopment area. If there was retail or restaurants, there'd be that opportunity to have outdoor dining or, you know, instead of just a 5-foot or 6-foot wide sidewalk. There's a lot of areas that it's not possible to widen the sidewalk, but we wanted to have that opportunity to see if we could encourage that type of sidewalk in the redevelopment area. Sometimes, you know, they would not be able to do it, so they'd have to ask the council for a variance, but we wanted to keep that requirement in there. So that is.
Requirement now is 10 feet. Even though the majority of our sidewalks are 5 feet?
Well, actually, they aren't, when I just was kind of going through
Yeah.
and showing you what they were.
They're all over the board.
They're all over the map, but I thought the one with the colors on it, it looked like a lot of 5s, but.
It did, but then when we actually went out and measured them, it looked like
Oh, I see.
everybody had like 5 or 6 feet, but
Okay.
like in front of, you know, City Hall, it's, not City Hall, and the Chamber, it's like 12 feet, and that's 6 feet, you know, 9.6 feet in front of Gallery, et cetera, so it is all over, but we wanted that opportunity to see if we could encourage that, because we want a more pedestrian, walkable downtown.
Sure, I mean, and I get that, so, but not all these people probably applied for variances through, I mean, Oldsmar Cares
We
did.
just changed it when, was it 8 years ago? We changed the code in the redevelopment area to require that, so.
In the work session, didn't we talk about the businesses on 580, having them all sort of have that one continuous, like not having to have them have a 10-foot sidewalk because
We
majority.
could do that. We could, you know,
Because it just seemed like you're not going to have like a 5-foot existing sidewalk and all of a sudden it's 10 feet and then at the next business it's 5 feet. Doesn't make sense. So, but they would currently have to apply for a variance to have it.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
And I guess maybe that's it. Maybe if you look at particular areas, if 90% of the sidewalk is 5 feet, maybe that's the,
And that's why we support a variance or recommendation for, you know, supporting the variance, but it would be up to the council to decide.
Okay.
And then, last but not least, driveways. So we'd never had a requirement in the code for driveway length. We had driveway width, but not driveway length. So, you know, one of the exercises when we went through the code, we realized that was created an issue, and it really didn't come to light earlier because we didn't have as much infill development. So we're proposing that there's, the driveway should be at least 25 feet from the property line back, so that'll accommodate a car, and you shouldn't have any overhang or the sidewalk, so. And I didn't
And if
know.
there was a variance to that, would it just go to your department or would that have to come before?
That would have to come to council.
Okay, okay.
The only variances administratively that the council had determined were acceptable were, you know, side yard street or fence variances, but not something like a driveway.
Okay.
We're not gonna go there.
question? I like that. Yeah, I think.
Great job.
Very helpful.
That's the setback pretty much, 25 feet of
Yes.
the house anyhow.
Yes,
So potentially, it just means someone's gonna have to design such where the driveway goes straight back, so it's.
but for a corner lot, they have to have 225. So if they're gonna have a side loading garage, then they're gonna have to maintain 25 feet from that side street as well, so. I mean, we can't anticipate, or we're not mind readers, so sometimes only they know, and they don't think to tell us, oh, by the way, we're gonna do this. So I think this will kind of protect us,
This
hopefully.
probably lessens the opportunity for Park and St. Pete Drive, other corner, to happen. At least if
Like
you
you
have
did
this as
over
the
there.
benchmark, you know, then they have to demonstrate why they can do something different, side loading or
Sure.
whatever, so, okay. I like it. Excellent.
Do we need a motion for this, Mayor, or anything?
I think you have a consensus. The consensus is we're gonna, at least on the height deal.
Yes.
I mean, I think I'm okay with the sidewalks and the
And the
driveways.
Yeah.
Me too, I'm okay with that.
I would like to, though, you know, definitely on the height thing, get a little better grasp on that.
Yeah, I'd like
Okay.
to work on that.
Is that the consensus?
And for
I don't know, we need a motion.
code
just a
amendments on
consensus?
those two?
Just to
Yeah.
research
attorney.
and come back to you on heights of, you know, in different zoning districts, or,
Well, what about the two that we don't have a problem with? You
Can
want
we
to
make a
proceed with code
motion?
amendments on those?
The sidewalk.
we will be bringing that back to you. We're going to the planning board, and we'll be bringing the code amendments, you know, to amend the code with regard to the design flood elevation, with regard to the driveway length.
You're gonna bring it back, we don't need a motion.
No, we don't, I
No, we
don't
have a
think we need
No,
a
I just
motion.
want a
on the 2
clarification on, you know,
Need a consensus on those, so we're agree on the sidewalks and the driveways for them to move forward with
Yes.
those?
You want a workshop on the building heights?
And a workshop on the building?
Yeah, it would probably be good to, just some clarity. I mean, obviously, we can all drive around, but what's next to these current TCCN properties? You know, like some of them are gonna be homes,
Yeah.
even though it's facing
Yeah.
on 580. So I think we need to look at that, you know,
The adjoining property.
yeah, the adjoining properties that are there
Okay.
existing.
Well, that's why I think it's a little more than
Yeah, I
an
agree, yeah.
agenda item.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you, Marie, great
All
job.
good? Jerry, you good on that?
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Marie.
okay. Do you want to continue with the breweries, or?
Yeah, we can go ahead. Next item is the discuss permitting breweries, microbreweries, and brew pubs in the CRA and other areas.
Well,
Did you bring samples?
Wait a minute, are you looking for,
No, when you pass,
are you looking for,
No, she's gonna bring it back.
the breweries?
No, we're on that subject.
We're on it
now.
right now. We haven't even discussed it yet.
I know that. If we're just gonna discuss it,
Well, let's see where we're going and we'll figure
well, I
out.
can tell you right now, this is not the night to make a decision on it.
I haven't said we're making any
I didn't
decisions.
say you.
Okay. Let's just, it says the first word is discuss.
Well, I
And we
just
want,
want to make that clear that we're gonna
we sent,
discuss it.
Do you like
I think
beer?
the staff,
Hold on.
I think the staff wants to flush out.
Right.
What the
you know, a little better how everyone feels about. They raised some really good issues.
Let's back up to how we got to where we are today, which is we wanted them to research the different cities and what their ordinances are as it relates to this, because we had some conflicts between what we could do in one area and not do in another area, and I think that's where we're at right now, is to kind of take the next step and see where we want to go and hear what you have to say, and if we got to tweak it or make adjustments, or and then see what plan of action we want to do, if we go to an ordinance or what we do. So the floor is yours.
Well, Forward Pinellas did a lot of research. They had, and they were a great resource as far as background information and what was going on in the county. Of course, we talked to the city attorney, what's going on in Dunedin. And there's a lot of assumptions what a microbrewery is and what a brew pub is, what a brewery is. So I think that Oldsmar should consider customizing the requirements for microbreweries, breweries, or brew pubs to, based on the way we're laid out. For example, Dunedin, their fringe of their downtown is really an industrial area. So I think on Douglas by Skinner. So, you know, that's where a lot of the brew pubs or micro distilleries or microbreweries are. But we don't really have those kind of iconic, you know, buildings we're creating in our downtown. So that was an issue. So staff is proposing that we have different types based on the zoning districts. So we're proposing that in the IPD, the M1 and the C3, you would be allowed to have a micro distillery, and that would be up to 15,000 gallons per year. You could distribute, so you'd have like semis coming in and distributing the, you know, and selling it off-site and also on-site. You could have a tap room, you could have food trucks, you could have some kind of food service.
And which category is that?
That is microbreweries, and it would be limited to up to 15,000 gallons per year.
Is it okay if I ask
Of
a
which
question,
zonings?
Mayor?
C3.
Yeah, because from smallest to biggest is just categorically.
A microbrewery, that would be the biggest.
Okay.
And that would be more of an industrial use, because you'd be manufacturing or, you know, brewing the beer on site for distribution. So that would be up to 15,000 gallons. And that would be something that you would consider for an industrial area because of the distribution, the semis or whatever, you know, the storage of waste product on site. You need a much bigger facility.
Good example might be
I'll show you.
Tampa Bay Brewery,
Whoops, yes.
right?
I have a
And
question.
that's it.
But isn't the Dunedin Brewery, don't they brew their own beer?
Yeah.
Well,
Classified as a
a brew
microbrewery?
pub would be, you could brew or manufacture it on site, but that would be limited probably 9,000 gallons a year.
That's a brew pub?
Yes.
But a brew pub doesn't distribute it, right?
No, it's for on-site consumption, but you know, if you did distribute it, it wouldn't be semis, it might be service trucks or, you know,
I want to get
how would we
clarity
know?
here, because it's my understanding the Dunedin Brewery, it's, yes, Douglas used to be sort of an industrial area. Now there's new apartments, it's
Sure.
definitely not industrial anymore. In my understanding that not only do they brew it, they distribute kegs. So from my understanding of the classification, I would consider the Dunedin Brewery a microbrewery. And I think we really limit ourselves by saying something like the Dunedin Brewery, we can't have in our downtown. It needs to be industrial because they might be brewing lots of beer.
Well, we could. It would just be a limit to up to 9,000 gallons. So, you know, the major,
Value behind that, like what are we, why are we wanting to limit? what
because
they
it's
can
more of an
produce?
industrial use based on the research, it's more of an industrial use once it exceeds that 9,000 cap.
Bree, can I interrupt you for a second? Because this is another point where I have to clarify. The staff report and some of my conversation with you has the data referring to the production as barrels, not gallons.
Oh, excuse me, I'm not a beer drinker, so.
And I think part of the reason for the discussion is that it's pretty obvious there's some confusion over definitions between even one area and what others. And I think if we give Mr. Gaynor an opportunity to weigh in here, once you've heard from staff, I think maybe some of that will get clarified. And all we're saying as a staff is, we want to be clear on what you're telling us you want.
Sure.
Then we'll make it happen.
We want, like, you know, on-site brewing or whatever it is, these distilleries on-site. If they do sell some off-site, that's fine, but we wanted to kind of cap it, the barrels per year.
So Dunedin Brewery, and I don't mean to jump in front of you. Dunedin Brewery is a microbrew, the 15,000
That's
barrels?
what they consider a microbrewery.
So we can set our own limits, I guess? Is that what you're telling me?
And your own definitions.
And your own definition?
Yes.
Okay, just,
Quick question
Wait a
of
minute,
Tom.
Marie?
or-
I think we're going around in circles here. Are you gonna tell us what you're recommending?
Yes.
That's what she was
Okay,
saying.
tell us now what you're recommending. I know what's in here, I wanna know what you're recommending.
Well, she said what she's recommending.
I
and I'm
want her
saying
to tell, I want her to say it again.
Okay, in the TCCN, the TCCR, the ROR, the C2, we're recommending brew pubs, and you would be able to produce the beer or wine or spirits on site for consumption by patrons.
Okay, do they have to follow the regulations of these different zonings?
Well, we're also recommending the separation requirement that we have now, the distance requirement from a church, school, or residential district, brew pubs and micro distilleries or microbreweries.
You all may
They would be
understand this, but
exempt.
Will be
this is making no sense to me.
okay, go on.
Go on with your presentation.
Oh, okay, thanks. So microbreweries, as I said, it's M1, the C3, but we also are including the IPD. We didn't have this in the staff report. It is considered light manufacturing, oops, excuse me. And the limit would be 15,000 barrels per year. You can have off-site distribution and on-site consumption. There could be a tasting room. You could have an agreement with a restaurant to provide food. You could have a food truck, that sort of thing. It wouldn't have to have a, restaurant use.
But it could have.
Yeah, it could have. But I think the big difference is the 15,000 barrels per year cap.
Okay.
We wouldn't allow outdoor storage unless it was screened. The production would be inside the building only, and they'd have to dispose the waste product off-site. And we want them to screen the mechanical equipment. So it's really an industrial use. You could probably do it now. The food component was kind of an issue. We wanted to clarify that. So the example was Tampa Bay Brewing Company. You can see, the restaurant area is, to the left. The rest of it is the production facility. They have outside storage. It's really quite a large site. So, and I really couldn't find any place in the downtown that you could do something like the Tampa Bay Brewing Company. So,
That's what I want you to say.
Yeah, there's no place that would even work down.
no, there's no, but you can have like a brew pub, which would be, 9,000 barrels per year.
What is 7 Cs, 7 sons, 7 sisters, 7 brothers?
I think that's like a brew pub, isn't
What
it?
is that one considered?
But I think they consider it a microbrewery in Dunedin, but we would consider it a brew pub.
Brew pub.
So I've done some research on this. So where would the crooked thumb fall into this, based on the guidelines that are being proposed?
I think brew pub,
Brew pub.
because they have some production on site. I think they distribute small amounts, and then they have food sales also.
And that fits in all the zonings?
No, brew pubs, we're recommending TCCN, TCCR, C2, ROR, and we consider it commercial use, and the cap would be 9,000 barrels per year, and 40% of the revenue must come from food. So they would be, they could have an agreement. There might be an opportunity for them to have a food truck based on the size of the site. They'd have to go through another level of review, like a temporary use or something, so they didn't displace parking. But, that's typical for a lot of the
Sure.
breweries or microbreweries or brew pubs in like Safety Harbor, for example.
So I guess to follow up on Eric's point, and maybe this helps us
Kind of.
people visualizing, so we're saying a 7 sons, Crooked Thumb, a Dunedin Brewery, we would classify those as brew pubs.
Brew pubs, yeah.
Okay.
And that's based predominantly on the number of barrels.
Yes.
I mean, is that kind of what the guideline is that the other cities are using in terms of trying to classify production? Or is
Well,
it
based on our,
square
it was
footage
kind of like all over the map. And, you know, for example, St. Petersburg, they have some huge buildings that they're repurposing for, you know, microbreweries, but
Three
they.
daughters.
Yeah, so, but they have the space. We don't really have,
I was out researching.
thank you.
As you should.
Thank you.
Have it then, but we just don't want the large semis. I mean, where would they go in downtown?
But a lot of it, though, I mean, you know, and I appreciate the points that are being brought up in this because they are important factors to consider. I'm looking at it more, what is space appropriate for what we want to accomplish overall. That part of it, we have to figure that any restaurants that are in there, any businesses, they're going to get deliveries every day, like
Absolutely.
you know. So
Absolutely.
that factor of it is probably going to be less.
Yeah, that's
have
right.
less impact.
Even if you don't have this, I mean, even Oldsmar Tap Out, I mean, the Bud truck and the Miller Lite truck come, and if you had food,
They're in and
Cisco
out.
truck, not your Cisco, but
You know, they don't come when it's busy because people are busy working, you know, at the restaurant and so forth.
We're just
So
like throwing, because we need
yeah, it's a good
guidance from
consideration,
you.
though.
Another issue was the parking, so, microbreweries, we're recommending 2 per 1,000 because it is an industrial use. And that would be for the production area, and then 4 per 1,000 for the tasting room or whatever the patrons are, and that would be in the microbrewery area, the industrial area.
You keep saying industrial, but then,
M1 or C3?
yeah, but then all of a sudden, we're talking about the TCRA and the TCN and the M1, and, I mean, bring it down to where they can go.
That's what she's telling us.
That's what she's
We're gonna
doing.
go over the map in a minute that I just passed out, so we can go over it again. And then we asked, you know, council to consider eliminating the separation requirements. So a microbrewery or a brew pub would not be regulated, you know, with the separation between a church, school, or a residential district. So,
I think we're all in agreement with that.
Say it again?
We're, currently, we can't, they're not allowed to be within areas within a certain distance.
we
of
changed the
church or
code for the town center when the tap house was there because it was a
Right.
mixed use, and, you know, how can you have residential above a establishment serving beer? You couldn't meet that 150 or 1,500, you know, separation, so.
Well, if you
that was-
walk out the door and around the building and in and then up.
So, then the map that I passed out, you can see that C2 is the red on the map. The TCCN, which is the pink, the TCCR, which is the gray, or dark gray, and the ROR. Those areas would permit a brew pub and limit it to a 9,000 barrels per year production.
What is that ROR that's across the street?
It's over by the smokehouse. That the.
And the main reason why you're considering that is because of the semis coming in to take the,
Yeah, and because there's more, it's more of a manufacturing type of use, so.
That's
It's
the
fine to
main-
have it on site, but we don't want the main purpose to be for off-site distribution.
So, for us that listen, I listen kind of slow, so. TCCN, TCCR, and ROR would be, in our determination,
And
microbrews.
C2 as well, C2 as well.
Yeah, he just keeps going on and on and on. I
And
mean, we're on
C2.
one thing, and all of a sudden it's going to something
And
else.
C2, so those 4 categories would be the microbrews. Is that right, or no?
Brew pubs.
The brew
They'd be the
pubs.
brew pubs, they'd be the smaller ones.
Gotcha.
And Jerry, the big thing here, when they're talking micro brewery versus brew pub, the brew pub's the smaller one. So it's not going to be as big of a operation.
So what we're talking about, if anybody
Distinction of
wants
what do we allow
it's a
in
brew
which-
pub.
One is a brew pub to allow that, as well as a microbrewery, which is potentially is a larger
Yeah,
operation.
I
Yeah, but I
got
just want to
that.
make sure, you're saying that you would like the TCCN and the TCCR to be both brew pubs and microbreweries, correct?
Yeah, and I'd like to know, I'm trying to do some research, what the number of barrels is or kegs that the Dunedin Brewery sells. I thought we were trying to mirror what Safety Harbor and Dunedin were doing, and
I don't disagree.
I don't think it helps us by saying, okay, a microbrewery based off a certain number. We can have a maximum number of barrels. I mean, you look at Cigar City, it's like 60,000 a year. But granted, it's still a great facility there in Tampa, off of a main road. It's not in their downtown, but it attracts a lot of people. So we need to establish what that maximum number of barrels or size of facility we think is appropriate. But I think to say we don't have the space is a mistake. We have plenty of land that we need developed that could incorporate a brewery, and it's all in the TCCN or TCCR. And based on the recommendation, we're saying, well, if it's over 9,000 barrels, you got to go industrial. And I just don't think that's.
When you do over a certain cap, it is an industrial use, it's a production, and that's really better suited in an industrial area. We don't want.
Really, at 10,000 barrels, is it really production? I'm just saying, I think we need to compare to other
I think the
local
question
breweries.
might be the
I
number,
really don't
because I
care
don't disagree
what
with
Safety
you.
Harbor and Dunedin does. I want Oldsmar to be separate.
Well, that's what we looked at, the uniqueness of Oldsmar, and where would we put these? In the staff report.
Out of the market to even have a.
No, I agree, and I don't have a feeling.
Be so unique.
I don't have a feeling.
I mean, I think it's also, my perspective of it, specifically in the area that you're talking about, and I agree. But the one question does become, all right, how big is actually that space going to be?
Yeah.
And how much land do we have there that we want completely dedicated to that? So there's like some balance in there, and I don't know, certainly what that right balance is.
Well, I'll tell you, the Tampa Bay Brewing Company does 12,000 per year. I don't know if that full 12,000 is done at this facility, because I know they have the original facility in Ybor, but I know this is their largest facility. But just to give some perspective of what they do, I can look at what something like a Green Bench does, or a Three Daughters. But to say that we don't want a Three Daughters here in Oldsmar, I think is a mistake, because yes, they got started in an industrial area, but they're attracting a lot of people to an area that people don't go. So whether it's industrial or downtown, if you don't have people going there and you want people to go there, don't limit yourself based off you think. And it's a warehouse, but there's games inside, there's kids, Green Bench has lawn activity. So I say be cautious of categorizing something that we don't really know a lot about until we compare.
Well, I think this is really, kind of the starting point to drill in to get a better, better understanding and so forth.
That's what I tried to say in the beginning. I mean, this is not the place to.
Well, this is, because we need to have this conversation.
Yeah, we have to have the dialogue.
Report, there's examples like of Two Frogs and what they do, and there's a lot of Safety Harbor and Tarpon Springs, like St. Somewhere Brewing Company, located in the house, and they do on-site brewing. So there's a lot of different options, and it gives you good examples. But I wanted to ask the city attorney if he would kind of give some input, since.
What matters to me is the size of the buildings.
Yeah, you don't really care.
Provide like any kind of insight as far as the breweries from your perspective, specifically Dunedin.
Well, obviously I've been involved in Dunedin, being their city attorney, and seeing, how it has affected the downtown. Most of the, I think the Seventh Son and Dunedin Brewery, those are the big ones. They also, the Seventh Son, I don't think serves food. Dunedin Brewery does serve a little bit of food, but they're the big production. And obviously, I would suggest to you to be concerned about truck traffic. If you provide for these areas where they can be these microbreweries can be located, in other words, the volume, once they're in there, you won't be able to get them out. So you're going to be having these big trucks moving in and amongst these small areas where there's going to be a lot of people walking in your downtown. And so I think you need to be very cognizant of that, be very concerned of that. There are a lot of microbreweries that have grown up in Dunedin over the last 5 years. You have Caledonia, you've got the Dunedin Woodwright, and there was a couple others downtown, and they were a major draw. There's a lot of foot traffic, but I will tell you there's also a lot of parking problems. And maybe it's just associated with downtown Dunedin because they don't have a whole lot of parking.
In general.
But that is another big concern. You should have lots of cars, no places for them to be.
Build it and they will come, and they're coming.
They're going to come.
See, that's a big concern to me on the on our downtown area, on redevelopment. I don't, we're gonna develop something down there, but I don't want semis and tons of traffic in that area.
Well, let's just say we were to get an organic grocery store right downtown. I don't think anyone complained. They're gonna have semi-trucks dropping off food and delivering.
Not gonna get a
But the difference we have with Dunedin is Dunedin basically had a street that was industrial, and they didn't have any extra space, and they don't have any parking downtown. We have a blank slate for downtown. So if we approve something depending on, say, a certain size, we can accommodate for whether it's alleyways or parking for trucks that a city like Dunedin can never accommodate for because their downtown already existed.
Well, Oldsmar only has so much land down here. And we got to protect this land down here. I mean, we don't have land that you can put a big microbrewery down there and a bunch of parking. We don't have that much land. Now, I want to ask a question. Tom?
Yes.
Douglas Avenue, Douglas was never M1.
It was light industrial. I'm not sure if it was M1 manufacturing. It's, you know, there's the big aluminum company was there, there's the big warehouses there.
The biggest thing on Douglas is the baseball stadium.
No, we're not talking about the same thing. The Douglas that we're talking about is on.
Skinner between.
Between Skinner and Main Street.
Right.
That's where the Denny Brewery is, and the city just opened up a garage, on the bottom floor, and then
That the old
apartments
bank?
above them.
Is that the bank?
No.
No,
it's
the
not.
apartments across the
Apartments
street.
above a parking garage.
Okay. But we have to be very careful about this downtown.
It's not just the parking, I mean, you have to take into consideration where they're gonna store the waste product, you know. If it's adjacent to residential, you might have complaints about, you know, smells and then there's also the screen, so we wanna be cognizant of that. But I think you can customize the code to suit, you know, the downtown area. It doesn't have to be just like Dunedin or Safety Harbor or Tarpon, it can be, you know, unique. But we're just throwing out all these recommendations, and we're hoping that you can give us some
I
direction.
apologize, this is my mess. What I asked Marie to do was present to you, and if you look at page 47, it outlines the definitions as they're expressed by the surrounding communities. So the way I saw this was, we need to decide what the definitions are for us, because she made the point multiple times, and I agree with it. There's all kinds of definitions depending on where you're going. Secondly, I don't think this needs to be overly technical. Tell us where you want to allow them and what you want to allow, and maybe that requires a workshop, and then we'll make the code do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's the
And I
best
don't
way to
think
break
this,
it
by the
down.
way, I don't think this is a mess at all.
No.
You know,
Me
if
neither.
everybody has read what was provided
Right.
to us,
Yeah.
it's not a mess.
It's
It's pretty
excellent.
clear.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I thought it was a very good report. The staff put a lot of time into it, a lot of good research in it. And it, you know, it gives kind of a starting point to better understand that there are different types of breweries that exist out there and looking for the right fit, so.
But we can also control
Totally.
those, you know, which I think is
If
important.
we put it in black and white, we can control it, but I don't know the black and white yet. I mean, because we've went from, see, we've went, what, 5 zonings now? That could be, that could not be. So there's no black and white yet.
No, there's not.
It's not supposed to be.
No, that's why we're here to,
We can
I think
sit
it's
here all
black and
night and
white
talk
based
about
off of
this.
the recommendation of where the brew pubs should be versus the
yeah,
microbreweries.
yeah, and I don't think a workshop would be a bad idea.
Can we combine the workshops?
I'm fine with that too. I was thinking the same thing, you know, while we're all here. I like it. I think the information is great.
I think a great job.
Similarly to
Love it.
the height discussion we had, I think we need to kind of feel it out where these particular microbrews or brew pubs, you know, and what the definition is and what it looks like, and kind of helps me visually, you know, I'm a touchy-feely guy, as to know what a crooked thumb really Is those the type of thing?
Crooked Thumb produces 1,200 barrels a year. They're small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
All I know is we need one.
I'm surprised that Tampa Bay Brewing was 12,000. That seems low to me for some reason, but I guess maybe it's not.
It's obviously going to
Barrels of
require
kegs.
much more research on our part.
A
Field
large
trip.
portion is the restaurant.
The field trip's in order.
But I think, and
Heck with the
these guys, I'm
workshop.
sure, they know, but I don't even think their barrels are like our barrel. Like, they're not like Budweiser barrels. A lot of them are like, but smaller.
Cylinder.
I assume they were talking
Long
about kegs.
cylinder.
Well, is that right?
31 gallons.
Huh?
31 gallons in a barrel.
That's a keg, right?
What's that?
Isn't that a keg?
Well, what's a full keg of Budweiser?
I mean, a barrel in this definition is a keg, isn't it?
No.
Like a party keg?
Oh, I think it's more like.
Not that big?
No.
Now, we're talking about kegs and barrels and
They're like a scuba tank size.
way off I don't know where we are.
Huh? Huh?
Do we want to have them speak
Could
and
we-
continue the conversation?
Could we talk about the kegs and the barrel at another time?
Hold on.
Jesus.
Yeah, and more, I wouldn't mind
No,
hearing
I just
from.
want to thank council for going through this process, especially with the work session and the updates, because it gives staff direction and clarity, where you want us to go forward. Sometimes we're not really sure the interpretation of some of the code requirements.
Well, and
This
again,
has
they're.
been very helpful.
All the other cities are kind of all over the map too, so might as well use them as a learning curve to maybe not do some of the things. I think Tom makes some valid points, although funny enough, as many times I go by 7th Sun, I don't know that I've ever seen a truck there. I don't know where they get in or out. Huh?
They go in the
In the
back.
back, in the back, so, but, Dan, if you want to come and kind of, this isn't a pitch for your scenario, but a pitch, a kind of an insight from your perspective of that type of business?
Absolutely. Well, good evening, council. For those of you who I haven't met, my name is Dan Gaynor, and I am trying to bring one of these microbreweries to the city of Oldsmar. So first of all, I appreciate Marie and all the.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Can you give your address and everything for the record?
Absolutely.
Because I look over there and I look at her going, nobody
Sorry.
listened.
Yeah, my address is 7861 Marsh Point Drive.
And I'd like to tell you that I am on the city council.
He's stating that you forgot to send him the email.
He didn't get the email that the rest of us.
And, you know,
You sent it to Marie, the mayor, Gabby, Mr. Seidel, Dan, and McGee again, Gabby. See, I'm not even supposed to be in this discussion, thank you.
No,
All right, Jerry, you're just going to have to be
I-
quiet for the next few.
Give him a beer and let him sit.
I want to address that real quick because I apologize if you felt like I left you off. The only reason I didn't include you is because we had not spoke personally about this
I'm not
business.
going to talk to you personally about it. We're going to make our decisions right here.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
And that's why you left me out?
okay.
I'm not impressed.
All right, in the interest of time, can we keep moving along?
Absolutely.
Please? Thank you.
So, I had a chance to review the proposal, and the biggest thing I wanted to call out is the definition of a brew pub, as it's defined in here, is 51% of revenues are from food sales. And that, to me, is the big challenge, is, a lot of these guys, they know beer really well, but to do beer and food and to deliver 51% of the revenues as food sales, as defined as a brew pub in here, is going to be challenging. So that's where, when you limit a microbrewery by this definition to an M1 zone or to a C3, you're really taking a lot of people out of the game who want to get into the downtown or into the town center. So you talked earlier about Crooked Thumb. They do not have food, and they are only at 1,200 barrels a year. So you think about 9,000 barrels a year, it's a pretty large brewery. I mean, Tampa Bay Brewery at 12,000 is pretty large with 2 locations and distribution throughout the whole Southeast. So I just want to put that in perspective, when we're thinking about these, this conversation, 9,000 barrels is a lot of beer. So I think the conversation should be more about, can we change this language in here in regards to the percentage of food sales? Does that go away? And is there an opportunity to put microbreweries in the town center? And maybe it's not in the middle, but could it be on the fringe? Could it be on the outside to help alleviate some of the concerns about transportation, about backing up to residential? Because it's no different than a Applebee's or Buffalo Wild Wings right there in the town center. They're gonna have the same, 52-foot semis coming in delivering ingredients. So I just wanted to make that pitch to the city, if you guys would consider that definition for the brew pubs and really look at the food sale component of it and see if we can take that out and really focus on, okay, what size microbrewery do you want in the city? And maybe you look at it in terms of square footage or acreage. But our vision is to bring a very family-centric microbrewery to this city, to help drive foot traffic to the downtown, to help create a ripple effect for the other businesses in this area. And to Jerry, I do apologize that I left you off that email. It was
You don't have to
by no means
apologize.
intentional. But a big thing that I want to showcase, and I'm not here to pitch, is I think there is such a rich history in Oldsmar that I can tell through my business, and that's what I want to do here.
A rich history of what?
The history of Oldsmar and the idea that I have would tie in, and I can't explain it here because there may be some competition in the room, but I'd love to talk to you afterwards about some ideas that I have that we can kind of showcase the history in the microbrewery and help it become a community gathering spot in the
Can I tell you a
downtown.
little history? Can I tell you a little history?
No, I want to keep this thing moving along if
Maybe
we
he'll
could.
put your
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So when you say microbrewery, are you thinking just so I can help equate like Crooked Thumb and the different things, are you saying that we might want to consider a Tampa Bay Brewing Company in our downtown area or something of that caliber?
That's up to y'all to decide in terms of scale. I'm thinking my business and my vision is something much smaller, something along the lines of a
I guess
Crooked Thumb.
I'm having a hard time determining when it goes from a microbrew to a brew pub and
Been saying all.
I guess the point to consider is Tampa Bay Brewing is a restaurant as well as a full-scale brewery production.
Right.
So I don't know what their brewery to food percentage split is by definition that we've laid out here.
Right.
I don't know if food represents 51% of their sales. If it doesn't, they would be a microbrewery. If it does, they would be a brew pub by definition here.
I see what you're, okay.
So Daniel, your concept and what you've, I would say proposed yet at this point, but preliminary, what would you envision that food mix being? I'm curious.
So our vision was to not have any food, is to partner with local food trucks or local restaurants to have a delivery option.
Got it.
And, help generate, our revenues and build them up, then also help the revenues of the restaurants in this town center.
There's a brew pub in Palm Harbor that does that. Over by you, alternate 19 I was at. They don't have any food, but they have a delivery service bringing food in while you're drinking a beer.
Yep.
I can't remember the name of the place. It was awesome.
And maybe you guys are way ahead of this more than I am, but your comment, and it's well taken about Crooked Thumb and some of the other ones. I think you said Seven Sun does not have food, or does Seven Sun have food?
I don't believe they do.
So it's not that brew pubs can't have food. They could, but it's not, your comment is that you would like to see it somewhere between 0 and whatever your business model,
It should be 0 to,
whatever your business model.
yeah, I don't
wants to
think we
be.
should be regulating what percent. I mean, we're
That's
trying to
my-
regulate a brew pub, not how much food they sell. Do we really care if they sell food or not? Shouldn't matter.
And that's kind of my point is that, and I don't know, Al and I talked about this earlier, there are 7 breweries in Dunedin, downtown Dunedin, but only 2 of them distribute. And I think that's because do you know, Tom, if it's because they're not allowed, the other 5, or they just choose not to because it's not their business
strategy.
model? It's not their business model.
It's, do we go into distribution or do we focus on taproom sales?
But I do have to ask this question along that lines. How is it family friendly if there's no food being served and you're only selling beer? I mean, I'm just.
Well, I'll answer that. Have you ever
okay.
been to Green Bench Brewery in St.
No.
Pete? So it's on Central Avenue, or off on First. It's in a great location. It's a tap room, and then there's an outdoor area that's fenced in with cornhole and
Well, that's what
games.
Crooked
And
Thumb
so
does.
my friends that have kids, when they wanted a night out, they would go to the outdoor area with their kids, and their kids would run around and play games while they enjoyed a beer. Maybe they'd bring over pizza or something if they wanted something to eat, but
That's what Crooked Thumb does over there.
it becomes more of an outdoor play space while an adult can still enjoy a beverage.
Fair enough.
Okay.
So
Workshop.
basically, what I've interpreted that you've said is that what you plan to potentially build within the city would qualify as a brew pub as long as there wasn't a food requirement associated to the revenue.
Correct, if it was under that 9,000 barrel capacity as defined in
And I
there.
think to his point, and not specific to him by any means, I think that's the flexibility we want to have.
Yeah,
I mean, I really do think, I think that's, the Oldsmar, it wasn't a brew pub or anything, but the Oldsmar Tap House didn't serve food at all initially.
Yeah, they
I don't
did.
think. Not initially, they didn't.
Sandwiches.
Well, cold sandwich, but they didn't.
But with a beer, I don't know.
But 51% they didn't do,
No,
So-
nowhere near.
No.
Nowhere
So I
near.
mean, and
The one other thing I was going to add with the 51%, your business may evolve and it may change, and that mix is always going to be
sure, that's very fluid.
evolving. So
Fluid, weird. Yes, you saw that, didn't you? Making me thirsty. Okay, I think, thanks.
thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Marie, do you have thoughts on that? About the brew pub and where?
Well, I thought if there was no food at all, it was just, beer, wine, spirits, that's a bar, isn't it? And they aren't required to have.
Don't make this so
But I think
simple.
the difference is, though, they're manufacturing their own brand. They're
Right,
bringing that uniqueness to it.
Yeah.
And I literally have a family member who has a business reviewing microbreweries and brew pubs, and
Is this full disclosure here? Is
he's got this whole online thing up in New Hampshire, so when he was here, he was driving all over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we want to discourage. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
and to your
there's
point,
still-
yeah, if you
Kind
don't,
of the unique, for
if
the
you don't serve-
connoisseur, if you will.
if you don't serve food, you're just a bar. I don't equate crooked thumb. I hate to keep going back to that, but
No,
it's.
because they brew their own beer.
They brew
It was like a question, just.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
No,
That's a good, fair question, yeah.
We shouldn't be regulating a food requirement. I think that doesn't
Could
make
I
sense.
ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Have we accomplished anything
Oh,
on
yeah.
that?
About to.
What
We're
have we
about to come to a
accomplished?
resolution.
What have we accomplished?
I don't want to turn this into a debate about the debate, but yeah, I feel like we've just resolved a lot.
I think it starts to clarify the picture a little bit. I mean, we still need to do a
I
workshop,
think this
but
map helps.
it
I
also
think-
gives something to think about before then.
Mayor, I have one question, please. Dan, where is your vision of where you want to put this? Just
No, I don't want to get into that. That's
Okay, all right, I thought maybe.
specific to him.
So, two
Well, if
questions.
he's up here, that's.
No, this is about the ordinance in general. I don't want to turn this into
Right.
his, and
It's
no
already
disrespect.
turned into that.
No disrespect, but that's not what this is about. It's
Questions,
to
if I may,
educate us, yeah.
Mayor. Do we all agree that we shouldn't have a food requirement on a brew pub? So
I think
something
it's
that
something
sells
we
less
should
than
do.
9,000
Honestly,
barrels.
I think it's something that we should finalize at
At a workshop.
At a workshop.
I just don't see any
Same
need.
time, we can
I don't
establish-
necessarily disagree with you, but I'd like to look at it in its entirety of everything. I would,
Yeah, I haven't really made my mind up yet on it, but I think it's a fair question to ask, should we be doing that? The answer's probably no.
The answer's probably no, but I don't think we're not doing any ordinances tonight, so, I mean, I think we can resolve a lot at the.
Yeah, I mean, I just think if you look at something like a Crooked Thumb that only sells 1,200 barrels, based on the recommendation, they would be classified as a brew pub, but they don't sell any food, so technically they wouldn't be in compliance because they don't meet the 50%. But they have food trucks that are on site to provide food, it just.
But, I mean, is your point for bringing that up at this very second, because you don't think we should do a workshop?
I feel like Marie put together a report that makes sense. To me, the only questions outstanding are, do we need a food requirement? And two, do we agree that something like the size of a Tampa
where
Bay Brewing
should it
Company
go?
would be allowed
Right.
in the downtown? And I personally feel like it's not a problem if you associate the right parking and other things around it,
Well, I'll default to you guys, but I'm not prepared to make.
We're not ready to make a
I'm not
decision.
prepared to
I'm
make
not
a
either.
decision.
I'd rather drill into that where it's just on that subject where we can battle it out.
And bounce around.
I
I
mean,
don't disagree with you. I mean, I think that there's very valid
There's
points.
more consensus than there's not, that's for
Yeah, I
sure.
know. I'm just.
Yeah, so, Tom, you're here. Do you have anything, words of wisdom to add? You've got a lot of experience, Tom. If you could come up if you want. If you don't want to come up, that's fine. But you got to come to the podium. How many meetings have you been to?
More than you.
I have not missed one meeting.
In your lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Price, 418 Arlington Avenue East. I've been in the beer business my entire life. And I don't see, I like the conversation that everybody's having as to where we identify. And I just met my new neighbor, who's a friend of yours, last night. He just moved in down the street. And I didn't know this was going on tonight. I was just out. But I think there's certain areas of town that it would work in, there's certain it wouldn't. But when you get into the brew pub or the microbrewery where you are and with food and without food, I'd like to see it with food, Tampa Bay Brewing Company size, but I don't see why it's, I don't know. I'd like to understand what the workshop consists of.
Yeah, okay.
When you all get into it. Because it's interesting, and we need something like that. And for us to become more like a Dunedin Safety Harbor, we have to advance.
But yeah, and I think the dialogue in this is to Gabby's point, a Seven Sons we don't want to exclude a Seven Sons or a Crooked Thumb type of a place.
They don't serve food.
Just because they don't serve food.
Maybe they're terrible at making food.
Because I'm
They
gonna tell you
don't
what,
serve-
I'm not an expert on any of that, and I'm sure not gonna do their performa for them and tell them what works and what doesn't, so.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but most of the time, I'm probably gonna go have a couple beers and, that's about it, so. Okay, yeah, I just wondered if you had anything, and I think Tom brings some good points to it that, what are the growing pains of some of these, whether it's St. Pete or Tarpon Springs, and, hey, if you had it to do over again, that's what I don't think we want to get ourselves into that kind of a position, but, which is why I think a workshop is good to kind of lay all the pieces out there, because I'm sure Dunedin, if they had it to do over again, I'm not speaking for them, probably would maybe do things differently, or Tarpon Springs, or not picking on them, but I don't know if Tom has any thoughts, but the things you're talking about with traffic and trucks and loading and pedestrians and bringing all that into one,
And when you start into that, I mean, if you have a good product like Joey Redner did at Cigar City, he opened up as a small brewery and it exploded. And then he has trucks in there all day, every day and every night. Well, now he brews over in Lakeland at the brew pub, or brew hub. And so he expanded, but so be prepared, I mean, for that potential, but also you have Microman over here off of Douglas, who has trucks in and out of there all day long.
That's an industrial area, so.
But, yeah. And I'd like to see it over here.
I think we all would agree with that, but we need to figure out what that envelope or, is that
Maximum is.
the maximum? Yeah.
You have to leave some room for growth, because to his point, it might start out as a small brew pub, and then they start selling some more barrels, and now they're technically classified as a microbrewery, but we've said that's not allowed in the township, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And being selfish, like the first thing I thought of was Beamworks. Be a great location on that corner. How long Arlington
No
had-
fair bringing up your conversation with him. We already had that. We already had that dialogue.
Okay, but I live behind that.
The building's a mess.
And I would be opposed to that.
Sure.
Because I live on Arlington Avenue East.
Yeah.
And I didn't want School Street going through. I didn't want that 50-unit condo going there, because I didn't want School Street. I know.
You're
I
saying
know.
you wouldn't want a brew pub or a microbrewery,
At Beamworks.
which would be TCCN.
Because it backs up to Arlington Avenue East, which is just selfish because I live on Arlington.
Yeah.
Okay, these are the things that I think we want to have the discussion.
Yeah. Now, I think if you put it on the other side of St. Pete Drive, near the barber shop or
it's buffered.
The Moose Lodge or that whole street.
I think this is all dialogue that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say something to you. That's
Yes, sir.
not being selfish. That's having common sense.
Well, I mean.
Okay.
But it's the same reason people object to other things being built next to them,
No.
Too, I mean, if we promote, say, a brewery, and we also are a golf cart community like yourself, well, if we only allow it in the industrial area, how are you gonna get there? 'Cause you
Can
can't
we
cross
move
Denver
on,
Road.
Mayor?
So keep those things in mind too, that I would say we would want to promote golf cart use,
Yeah.
especially with an alcohol producing facility, and
So, question of Al and or Marie, do you have what we're looking for direction-wise?
Workshop.
But I mean, kind of the things that we're looking for is, discussion about brew pubs and food and sizes and, chime in, I don't know what else, but I mean, those are the
Those are the core things. I mean,
traffic, parking,
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's a host of different issues that I think we get into in the workshop.
I want to make sure.
Yeah, we talk about food trucks, we're gonna have other restaurants there. How's that play out? You know, those types of things. So,
And I'd like some other examples too. I know there were some in the packet, but like some of the bigger ones in St. Pete and Dunedin Brewery, like what are the barrels, number of barrels or kegs they distribute, and just to get a better reference point.
So maybe this is a traveling workshop.
Lab work.
Lab.
Practical lab.
A Jolly Trolley.
Yeah, Jolly
brew pub
Trolley brew
tour.
pub tour. Okay. You good, Marie, with?
Yes.
Okay. Good, thank you. Sure. Yep, you're right, Al, that didn't take long at all.
Whatever time it took, it was wasted.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
Gary, did you
Disagree.
read the document beforehand?
No, he's already told us he doesn't read the document beforehand.
No, that's why it was the way it was.
Yeah, so, I mean, four of us agree that it was valuable, so, and staff. We'll see, we jumped a bunch of
One of us
stuff.
did. Number 3.
I'm sorry, oh yeah, item number
Consent docket?
3, consent docket.
Oh, shit.
Approve minutes of the June 5th, 2018 City Council meeting. Approve minutes of the June 19th, 2018 City Council meeting. Approve payment to legal counsel. And approve the tentative agenda of August 7th, 2018. If nobody wishes to pull anything, I need a motion.
So move.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes, I think 5-0. We did that. City Attorney.
Nothing today, thanks.
Next is our loving city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 11, authorize city attorney to prepare an ordinance annexing West Oldsmar Section Number 1, Block 9, Lot 17 into the corporate limits of the city of Oldsmar. They're in a water service area. The property to be annexed is located in West Oldsmar, an unincorporated area of Pinellas County. The subject property is currently vacant. Property owners intend to construct a single-family residence. The planning board met on July 11th, recommended city council authorize the city attorney to prepare said ordinance. And statistically, the city has annexed now 231 of the 419 West Oldsmar parcels to date, which represents 55% of the parcels and 40+% of the acreage.
Awesome. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jerry?
He said yes.
One at a time.
That's what I was waiting for.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 12, St. Petersburg Drive Complete Street Status Presentation and Request to Advertise 2018-012 RFQ. There is a motion to authorize on the table that I need a council action on, but our city engineer, Daniel Simpson, is going to make a brief presentation about the status of the Complete Streets
With a capital
program
D.
design.
Good evening.
Take it
Thank
away,
you.
big fella.
Thank you. Yeah, Daniel Simpson, city engineer. I thought it was important to give an update because you want to see action out in St. Pete Drive and you haven't seen it, and that I want to keep it moving. And the second reason is that I'm going to have a slight change in what I think we should do, and hopefully you agree. So the project goals of the St. Pete Drive project is to transform St. Pete Drive into an inviting, multimodal, and mixed-use corridor, which really is going into the general idea of activating the CRA and with our city vision is what, we're kind of building on. As you know, we are prioritized to receive the Forward Pinellas $1 million grant. I won't go through that because you guys are aware of all that. What is a complete street? It's a street designed and operated to enable safe access to all users, including motorists, transit, pedestrian, bicycles, and golf carts. It's basically integrating all of that together in a cohesive way and hopefully look good. Okay, so the basic project direction and why I kind of wanted to discuss it for a second, or at least bring it to your attention, was I recommend that we go and have one design company design the whole project. So we don't get into a situation like some of the design issues we have on Douglas. Have one cohesive design based with 4 different tasks. So that's what you see here. Design task 1 would be an overall alignment. Task 2 would be drainage design. Task 3 would be underground utility design. Task 4 would be the streetscaping and trail. And then construction would have phases. So the first task would be like the alignment. And the idea is, where is everything gonna go? We're gonna put a roadway in, we're gonna put trails, we're gonna put park benches, lights, all of this stuff needs to work together. And the idea that we're gonna just go in and put the drainage and hope that later the streetscape works, I'm afraid that that's gonna be a problem. So let's design it do a 15%, 30% plan and kind of get a basic design so that everybody's working together as we go forward. That's the idea. So task 2 would be the drainage design, which is permitting and the drainage. Task 4 would be underground utility design, which that's more than anything just getting how we're going to put those underground utilities in and where they're going to go, where the transformers are going to go, et cetera.
Is part of that underground electrical?
Yes, that's what it is. Mainly electrical, but also the cable and internet. And then finally, the 4th task would be to actually design the streetscaping and all of the landscaping and all the nice looking things that we're getting the grant for. And then finally would be the construction. And one thing I failed to mention in the design process was trying to incorporate our, what I'm wanting the designer to do is to look at our budget, our funding requirements, and create a phasing of the construction that works based on what we have in our budget and our grant that's coming. Does that I hope that made sense. That was a little confusing. Did that make sense? Okay. So that's really all I had to.
Want to make sure we can afford it.
Well, correct. And since our money is based in multiple years, we want to phase it correctly.
Sure.
And while I have 3 phases up here, we've contemplated doing half of the street at one time, half at the other. And really, certain things work better to just be done at once, and certain things it's okay to break it into phases. So I would like them to recommend the best way to do it based on our budget constraints.
This is one of the most important things we're going to do in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yes, I agree. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. And we're ranked ahead of Largo, by the way. I'm on the Forward Pinellas, so they pushed hard to get their project on there, but they made it clear that we're the #1 priority at Forward Pinellas. So are golf carts allowed on St. Pete Drive?
No.
We're allowed to cross it, I think, if I recall. I don't
That's
put you
all.
on the spot.
They can cross
Is
it.
that correct?
You're allowed to cross, but not.
Okay, and I guess my question to that is, and it gets along the lines of, and maybe it doesn't fit in with the theme of complete streets, but if complete streets is intended to be pedestrian friendly, and I hear the stories all the time, I always wonder why golf carts wouldn't be part of a complete street concept.
I honestly don't know that answer. I would say that my guess is the classification of the road and the speed limit is high.
But isn't complete streets kind of intended to calm and slow the traffic? Okay.
So one of the aspects of it would be from Bayview, getting a speed limit to 25 would be what we've envisioned. Now, speed limits can't be changed without your approval.
Sure, right.
Okay, but that was one of the ideas to help create that pedestrian-friendly environment.
I agree. I mean, it's a good question. It's kind of a counter, we're trying to encourage it, but yep, we still got cars. And maybe that is something that you look at, that you got cars that are driving.
580 is a heavily traveled road. Well, it's not 580 anymore, but St. Pete Drive is heavily traveled.
It is heavily traveled. And I can only speak for myself, but I mean, I know when I drive through that section between State Street and Dartmouth, I tend to drive slower. And I don't know if it's because of the chemistry of the thing. You're afraid somebody's going to back out in front of you. Once I get past her, I gun it. Until you get to the bridge. Yeah, until I get to the.
Until you see him sitting in
Until I
front of
get
the
to the
bridge.
bridge today, I heard we had a big traffic thing out
Yes,
there.
I mean, there's psychological reasons why we drive slower based on lane width, hazards, things going on. I mean, people, when you have trees And streetscapes, you're gonna drive slower even, no matter what the speed limit is.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay.
you're, you know,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's part of, the overall picture is, because we're talking about golf carts and, there should be more of that and, and, well, I don't know anybody specifically that has ever ridden their golf cart down St. Pete Drive to Jack Willie's, but I've heard that it has happened.
I don't know why you're looking at me. I don't own a golf cart.
It happens quite often.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I know that's a completely different segment.
but we'll look at that and I'll make sure that is answered one way or the other and hopefully it's something we can do.
And maybe that's part of the design and, and into that, that's part of it. To me, that's part of pedestrian friendly. So,
I understand.
If you can't drive if we're encouraging them to ride a bike down there, but
not a golf
but not a golf cart, yeah, take your bike out there. So anyway, okay. Any other questions? Is it done yet?
No. But I'm asking you to, we're going to
Which will
request
be done
to
first,
advertise.
Burbank or St. Pete Drive?
Which one will be done first?
Yeah.
This one is less at the will of God as Burbank.
I still need a motion to authorize me to advertise for the RFQ for the design for this project.
Yep, motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second, great, I love it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Good job.
Thanks, Daniel.
thanks.
Item 13, request council approval to waive bid requirements for the window replacement project on the front building of the Municipal Services Center. The original windows are from the construction in 98, 99, and we're asking council to waive bid requirements to authorize the purchase of the replacement from Astra Construction Services per the pricing terms and conditions of the NJPA contract number FL03GC2-051716-ACS, piggyback 17-002E, valid through June 15th of 2019. We were asking council to approve a not-to-exceed price of $60,000, which is in the budget, and the funds are in account 001193519, 60-6221.
And just for clarification, I think this is one of the many good things that Al has done. These type of items used to be just lumped into the consent docket, and we never really, not that we have dialogue, but I think to bring it out of that and to at least afford the opportunity to have dialogue and be transparent about what it is, and because we continue to use the word piggybacking on a lot of things, and for valid reasons and all
Sure.
that, but I think it's a good
I think
thing. I
it's a
just
good point.
throwing that out there for the record.
Well, and I know Jared likes to discuss these things.
Well, because it also, then we don't have to pull them out, because we do have a lot of these that are in the consent docket, or used to be, that we wind up pulling them out anyway, so.
Yeah, how old are they? You said they were pretty old.
19
years.
What year's the building?
1998.
1998, so they're not that old.
What does?
Yeah.
I guess.
So need a second, motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 14, request council approval to authorize the city manager to negotiate 2018-006 RFQ for professional services for construction and engineering inspection for the Burbank Road project. The city advertised a request for qualifications for professional services for construction and engineering for the Burbank Road project 2018-006 RFQ in May 2018. 3 firms provided statements of qualifications, and a selection committee ranked the submittals based on specific selection criteria outlined in the RFQ. The final ranking was as follows. Number 1 was a company called DRMP. Number 2 is KCCS Construction Services. Number 3 is KCI Technologies, Inc. The submitted statements of qualification were complete and responsive. DRMP ranked number 1 in the selection committee ranking of the RFQ requirements. Florida Department of Transportation, which is facilitating the Economic Development Transportation Project Fund Agreement with the city, has reviewed the process and authorized negotiations. That was the holdup for why this hasn't been in front of you before now. The good news is, I think this means the Burbank project is ready to get going, so we're requesting council approval to authorize me to negotiate that RFQ process.
I'm excited. Motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Man, we're whipping through your stuff.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 15, request council approval to authorize the city manager again to negotiate the award for 2018-009 RFQ, which is general engineering services for utilities. There's currently a 3-year agreement with 2 optional 1-year extensions. The process led to a tie between the top 2 presenters of the 7 that presented, and we've asked permission for me to negotiate agreements with both Jones Edmonds and King Engineering Associates to provide general engineering services for city utilities. Our rationale is that we have enough work for both of them. It also creates a bit of a competition potential for both if we want to decide to ask for proposals from both of them at the same time. I see that as a positive thing. The contracts, once negotiated, will come back to council, and we're asking for permission to do that. And I want to probably ask Nan. Nan, can you just give a quick 2 sentences on that in case I missed anything? I want to make sure she's glad she came back early from her vacation.
We will not ask for 2 proposals at the same time based on the state law.
I could have left you there, and you made me look like an idiot. Go back on vacation.
But it does give us the option to play to their strengths, to bring in the best consultant on any given project, make sure that if one is busy, we have the best response time. And both firms scored equally. I think we have enough work, enough things going on that we can keep them both busy. We have asked both firms, would they be okay with having another firm under contract? Many of the bigger cities have many multiples, in the teens, in the 20s and 30s, sometimes in general engineering consultants. So it just depends on the amount of work you have to do. What it does is it allows us on the projects, under $1 million that the law allows, to get those projects moving quickly without going through the selection process each time. It's a very timely process. So we pre-select to keep work going on.
Great.
I guess we need a motion first for discussion.
moved.
Second. Question, so we were not going to necessarily pit them against each other on particular items, but we'll weigh their strengths. King Engineering in one particular area and Jones Edmonds in another. Do they not have overlapping strengths that, and if they do, could we not pit them against each other?
According to the Consultants Competitive Negotiations Act, we would try to negotiate with one of them, the scope and the fee and the schedule. And when we didn't feel like we were getting to a place where we thought we were getting the best value, we would cease negotiations and go to the second one.
And so how would you make the determination as to who you would go to first?
A lot of times it's the volume of work. We try to be fair and give the volume of, a variety of ways. If it's a specific strength that somebody has, a specialty in the reverse osmosis process or in the ASR, the aquifer storage and recovery process, some specialty in their team that maybe they've got somebody that's really good at that, we probably would go to them because of that. Overall, what we try to do is balance the work between the consultants as long as we're getting the value from each of them equally. And then if we get very responsive service and one can turn over the work faster, then we may have a preference to one over the other depending on the quality and the speed and the variety of how things come out.
So somewhat indirectly, you are pitting them against each other because they know that if they don't come with their A game, that they could, not get the work. So is that going to apply to both where they have, similar services that overlap, even if they have somebody that's a specialty person in reverse osmosis, if they are not competitive or working well with us, that even though you have that, we may go to the other? I mean, I assume that could be the case.
Correct. Well, our goal is to be successful with every project. And their goal is to be successful with every project. So we will just work with them. These will be our resources, our staff extension, if you will. It's the same as what you would do if you were using your own staff in-house. Who's the best person for this job? Based on their workload that they have now, based on their expertise, based on what you can do. Every day we want every
It's open
project,
to both of them.
correct, every day we want every project to be successful.
Is that decision made, and this is not a reflection of you, quite, just so I make a point of saying that, is that decision made by the director? Or is there other balance within there?
There is other balance. I mean, I would take recommendations. It would depend. If it were a Parks and Leisure Services project, then obviously they would have input on what their needs were and what needed to be fulfilling that. If it were something that was more transportation heavy or more utilities heavy, then obviously people within the staff also would have some input. I think the people that work with me understand my management style is very collaborative.
I think that's a fair question, and that doesn't have anything to do, but
Yeah, it's a transparency question. I mean, if you put yourself in a position where you have multiple vendors and one person's able to make a decision as to who's being used, there is generally the need for some check and balance, and that's my point.
We bring those contracts to the council.
Well,
Every contract over $25,000.
We hired you as the engineer, and you're the one to make the decision. I'm all for it.
that's fine. But ultimately, you're right, though, they come to us.
Well, the check and balance would be under 25,000 would be the city manager would have to approve the contract. Over
fair.
25,000, we'd be bringing those back to council.
Yeah, so there, yeah, okay.
So it's not one person that has all the say.
That's right.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Item number 15 is proposed millage rate for fiscal year 2018-2019. Recommended motion is to authorize the city manager to certify a proposed millage rate of 4.05 mils to the Pinellas County Property Appraiser. The city has maintained a millage of 4.75 mils or lower since 1988. Current year, the taxable assessed value of the city increased from the prior year. In order for the property appraiser to prepare the required notices on proposed property taxes called a trim notice, which will be mailed to each property owner by August 20th of 2018, we must return the certification of taxable value to the property appraiser by August 3rd, 2018. The council may adopt a lower millage rate based on decisions at the budget work sessions or as a result of public hearings on the budget, which will be conducted in September. However, the council may not adopt a higher millage than the rate now being certified to the property appraiser. And as I explained before, this is the same rate that we've had for many, many years. I'm not recommending a raise in the certification of the millage rate.
You need a motion?
Yeah, motion for discussion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? And although you may have said it, although the millage rate hasn't gone up in all those years, our ad valorem dollars go up. What are we at?
The rollback rate was like 3.8?
4%.
4%. Okay.
And the CRA was, I think, 6.
6, okay.
Oh, wow.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? Mr. Beaverland? Anybody? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? Okay.
Dan, you didn't want to raise this anymore?
I would have, but you guys said no.
Thank you, Mayor. Item 17 is scheduled budget work session. The budget work session schedule with a few alternative dates. For first and foremost, preference for staff is Friday, August 10th at 9 a.m. in the council chambers work session room. Alternative date would be August 14th. And if neither one of those work for the council, we have a couple of other suggestions.
I like the 10th.
Both days work for me.
You okay on the 10th?
Is your agenda different than mine?
I certainly hope not.
What? I only have you going to 16.
Doug, you okay with the 10th?
Well, I didn't mature quickly. I stopped
Gary
at
said yes,
16.
Gabby said yes, I said
I have
yes.
17 as the budget work session. What do you- Yeah, but that's under city council.
Friday the
Oh.
10th, 9
Well, you
a.m.
asked me to talk about the CRA items, so I just,
No, that's fine.
I got excited and I took advantage, sorry.
Because we just, boy, Ann, you just jumped right over Ann. And she
Did you want to do that one?
No, she had, we didn't even get to.
Isn't it my name on the memo?
Well,
Is it okay?
I don't have anything tonight, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm getting punchy.
Someone give him a Snickers.
Okay, so we're now at, city clerk has nothing, city council is the workshop, and I'm sorry, you just threw me off.
I'm sorry, I totally forgot what I said.
Okay,
August 10th?
Or August
10th, we
14th.
all agree,
10th.
August 10th.
except
August
Doug,
10th or
you.
August 14th?
Of August 14th, I think I'm gone.
No, we want the 10th.
10th
10th
at
is
9
a
a.m.
Friday.
Friday the 10th, 9 a.m.
August 10th.
No, wait.
You're the only one, Doug. Everyone else said yes, but you.
Ken's good, Eric's good.
There's a League of
Kevin's good.
Cities.
I know, I can't do it the 14th.
Okay, so that's fine.
10th.
Okay.
Can you do the
10th,
10th?
That's a few
okay.
days before the 14th.
What is it? What time?
August 10th,
9
9
a.m.
a.m.
Okay, I have two meetings discuss, FDOT meeting but they're in the afternoon, so I'm good.
You good? Thank you. I apologize for overstepping my agenda bounds.
Don't let it
Well,
happen again.
Tom always keeps me on track, and I was like, what happened? See, now you've thrown me off.
Council comments.
Yep, council comments. You want to do those too?
Yeah, I would. Thank you for your, good night.
Mr. Beaverland?
I have a couple. I'd like a report back from Felicia on her recommendation of send it to council, if you want to, on how we could go forward on getting the railroad spur donated to us for a trail all the way to the lake, Twin Lakes. You know, I just don't want to say this and then have it fade off in the sunset somewhere. I mean, if we're going to do it, we need to do it. If we're not going to do it, then I won't bring it up anymore. But I think it's important enough to bring it up tonight. So Al, if that's okay with you,
Yeah, can you say it again?
that's okay with, if that's okay.
Wow.
We're all getting punched.
One for Jerry.
Getting killed here.
To go after the spur.
I don't know what a microbrewery is, and the rest of the night's gone.
I don't want to talk about that again tonight.
All right, so the spur, you want to, please tell me
Go
what
to
it
the
is you're
railroad
looking
company and tell them to give us the spur.
for. Give us the spur.
Give us the
I
spur.
can tell you what else they've given us, but I
And
can't
leave
mention
the
it. It's a
tracks
family
there.
show.
Give us the spur, and then we make a trail all the way to Twin Lakes.
That actually is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Crossing Tampa
That's a
Road.
great idea. I'm glad you thought
Is
of
that
it.
enough? Thank you, sir. We'll take care of it.
Thank you, sir. Now, it was a great meeting the other day for that, the barbecue. And it was good for me because JJ Broody is our new county commissioner. JJ is a friend of mine, and we go back a long ways. Ken Welch, you know, I don't drink, but we're not drinking buddies, but Ken Welch is a friend of mine also, close. I could tell you how close we are, but I'm not going to. And I had brought this up one other time about a trail from Pine Avenue all the way to the Brooker Creek Preserve. And he said, well, I've talked about that before. I said, yeah, I'm the one that talked to you about it. Now, Ken, and I'm sure that Dave Eggers would help us. He says, have your council send a proposal to me about a trail from the end of Pine Avenue into it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of effort. But I think the effort is good to make a trail. We can name it after a future mayor or whatever. A trail from the end of Pine Avenue all the way up to the Learning Center. He thinks it's a great idea. He said, I'm sorry I didn't tell you before to make a proposal to the county commission.
I think it's been discussed at the county commission level, but if they need a proposal from us, we discussed it about 6 months ago, I think, because Dean and Deputy Kakalo were talking about, there are parts of that become submerged in really deep water in parts of the year. So we would have to address that.
Sometimes we have deep water all the way to my house out here too. Okay, but he said that he would champion it. David Eggers, well, I said it in front of, I talked to him in front of you, in front of you.
Yeah, David would. I know Dave would.
Commissioner Eggert said that he would champion it, and he said, you know, the penny money is where he would look.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what Ken said. And
yeah.
So there you go.
I think, I think it was brought up back when the economy was going in pear-shaped, and,
I
they
brought-
were cutting a lot of stuff.
I brought it up years ago, and I went to Ken about it. He says, go for it. Well, I guess I dropped the ball
Follow
somewhere.
through. You didn't follow through?
I guess I didn't follow through. But I'm following through this
I
time.
see you are.
He says, send me a proposal. Okay, and that's fine. And just thank you all who you do. And I hope we don't talk about microbrewery for a while.
Makes you want to go home and have a beer, huh?
I don't drink.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. McGee?
So we have a lot of birthdays this month. Dan and Al share a birthday on Thursday in 2 days, so wanted to wish you both a very happy birthday.
Thank you.
And Felicia and Deb will have birthdays before our next meeting, I believe. So, I know Felicia will. I don't know if Deb, are you having a birthday? No. Well,
I have one.
we'll celebrate you anyways. Happy birthday, though.
Well, happy
and-
birthday.
And then lastly, I hadn't announced anything yet, but Eric asked me the other day, so I was accepted in the class of Leadership Pinellas
Good for you.
For Eric for nominating me and for Eric and Deb supporting me. And it was quite intimidating going into that interview. This is kind of a funny story, but I walk into the building and there were two women sitting at a table. So I sit down and I think I'm at my interview.
No.
They were just the greeters for the interview. So we started talking, they're like, oh, we're not interviewing you. We're just gonna take you to the room. And then we go to the room and there's about 8 people in
It's
there.
like walking into The Apprentice.
Yeah, I
Like-
thought I was in like the firefighter's endorsement interview again or something. But, so yeah, that was interesting. And it
It'll
was,
keep you busy.
yeah, but I'm excited to be a part of it. So thanks for doing that, Eric.
You're very
That's all I have.
Councilmember Shrek?
Oh, thank you, Doug. I just want to say that the Gross Family Award that we went to, I thought it was really classy that all of us went. It showed that we are together as one, a team of one, and I really thought that was really nice. And like Jerry said, there was a lot of people there that, I have just met over the last couple of years and just becoming their friends, and it was just overwhelming for me,
I
actually.
introduced you to about 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah,
to
you introduced me to a bunch of people. It's just overwhelming for me that there were so many people there that were so important to us in the Pinellas County area. And I just thought that that was really nice that we all showed up. I just wanted to share that. And then the last thing was, happy birthday to Al. And then, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Ed Manning had fallen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's in the hospital.
I didn't know that.
I guess he broke his hip. And I just want to say that my prayers are out to you and your family, and I hope everything goes well for you. for Ed.
He's had a rough time in the last 10 years. He's had a bad time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo the same sentiments as it related to Corporal Gross being recognized and the dedication to all the Goldsmar families. And it was, it was one of those moments that looking around and there were council members, commissioners, I guess you would say, from Safety Harbor there and some county commissioners there, and of course the governor's, the first ladies there and Jamie Grant. But it was nice to look and just see our entire council there with charter officials there. I mean, I think it just, it says a lot about the community. So I think it's something we should all not take for granted. It's probably the best thing to say. Congratulations to Felicia. And I'm not sure if if we congratulated her on her appointment as well, because I can't remember. It seems like we haven't had a meeting in so long.
I think she just posted it.
Well, tonight made
It was
up
the
for it.
Florida Municipal
Communications
Communications Association. I wrote it
Congrats,
down. I
Deb.
can't lie. I didn't remember that. I planned for that.
That's what I
But to
meant to
both of
say,
you,
so happy
congratulations. It's funny when we're sitting here and people getting recognized. The thing that really strikes me, and it probably dovetails yesterday even more, that it's, to me, what it says, people going out and serving extra in the other areas, representing the city, and us getting awards for the extra hard work. It is pride. That, our staff takes pride in their jobs in the city, and it shows. So,
I'm going to steal Jerry's line and say thank you for being you. That's all I got, Mr. President.
I don't really have a lot. I got to get busy on my 11 words that I got to work into a poem, so I want to cut this short tonight.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah. You know, I think it might be easier if I work the numbers 1 through 11 into my poem instead of the words, so maybe I'll do that. Real quick, today we had a little impromptu. I want to acknowledge Holly, 15 years, right?
Yes, sir.
15 years. We did a little impromptu ceremony for her because she didn't want to.
She didn't want the big one.
She didn't want the big ceremony,
Post
so.
a picture from when she got hired.
Yeah. Oh, we still should have
That's
done
probably why she didn't want the big one.
That's what I said, yeah. I said, just because she doesn't come doesn't mean you can't do the
Don't
picture.
buy the plaque and forget about the ceremony, so we just gave her the check.
But it was nice. It's always nice to see people hitting milestones. Congratulations to Deb and Felicia for making it over the plate. That's great, showing us proud.
There was pressure.
Did it actually say you were from Oldsmar on the Jumbotron, so in case you didn't bounce it?
But she did say I was with her, and she did say to everybody that asked, because people were asking, what does FRPA stand for? And she said, I work for the great city of Oldsmar. And she said it to everybody.
I love it.
I don't have anything else. Again, I echo the Gross family ceremony. It was really nice, and as is important to Tony, you know, she always wants to acknowledge, of course, her son, obviously, but then the other Gold Star families, and there were probably, maybe
12 or
a dozen of them or so that were there, and, you know, and it's a tragedy that you know, I can't relate to, and a lot of us can't relate to, is, you know, and it happens, you know, it's an unfortunate part of peace, you know. Freedom isn't free, as they say, so that was nice. Ceremony. So, and thanks really to Jamie Grant for really spearheading it and putting it together, and, you know, even went to the point of getting the mock-up sign that they had, which I think is neat that they should
Nice
do.
touch.
So you have something, you know, because you may have a bridge in the middle of the interstate. It's not like you can go out there and visit it every day, but, you know, you don't want to forget it. So I had something else. I can't remember what it was, but in the interest of getting on to my poem, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Just before 10 o'clock.
So Jerry, you're going to do towards the end of August?
That, I wish.
Retirement party.